What's going on? Oh, I fucked that up already. What's going on, fellow A-plusers? It's your boy Adam Perez back once again for the new year with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report. We haven't been live in like 2 weeks. I forgot how to operate this whole entire system, but we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Having enjoyed a fantastic Christmas, a great New Year's, we're certainly back to give you guys all the fantastic news that's certainly happening in our current fandoms, and it's so good to certainly be back once again. If my voice sounds a little scratchy, a little dry today, I am a little bit under the weather. This winter break has really done damage to my throat, unfortunately, but we're going to push through. That's what it's all about here, guys. But it's so good to see each and every one of you guys again. We've been gone for about 2 weeks. We've missed a plethora of news, but fear not, we are here to go ahead and make sure that you are caught up to date. We got ourselves 6 honorable mentions, or a few honorable mentions, 6 main topics, and some live viewer questions. So, Stewart, let's go ahead and get into today's episode. What's up, fam? It's so good to see you guys again. What's up, Stewart? It's good to see you, buddy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing absolutely excellent. Really glad to be back on the show. How was your winter break?
My winter break was fantastic. Before I get into it, though, I do want to let everybody know we are streaming live over on TikTok as well. So if you are watching us on TikTok, we appreciate the love. If you want to hit those likes buttons, give us those hearts, give us the support. We definitely do appreciate it. If you're watching on TikTok and you want to get the whole scope of what we do here at A+ Hero Report, definitely check us out over on our YouTube page as well, as you get to see my co-host Stewart. On TikTok, it's just going to be one-sided. But for all our YouTubers out there, thank you guys so much for certainly coming through once again. We've definitely have missed you, man. If anything, my Christmas break and things like that have been fantastic. I got the opportunity to hang out with my family. Got the opportunity to hang out with my boy a little bit, see him, and just enjoy the wonders of Christmas, which to me was just amazing. Like, Christmas is one of my favorite holidays, so to kind of see my boy enjoying it also was pretty fantastic. What about you, man?
Mine was great. Actually, quick question. How many Christmases now have you had with your kid?
This is my second Christmas. Last year, actually, you know what? This actually might be my third Christmas. Because he was born November 7th. And so when we wind up bringing him home in November, he was super small for Christmas. He didn't barely remember it. And then last year's Christmas, he probably still had no idea what was going on. This is like the first year he's been able to just enjoy like the lights and the spectacle and see all the cool ornaments and stuff, So listening to Christmas songs and reading Christmas books, he seemed like he ate it up, man.
That's awesome. So this may actually be like kind of the first Christmas he actually like has as a memory.
I hope so. If not, next year for sure. For sure.
Definitely.
But what did you do for your holiday?
Dude, I had the most relaxing Christmas vacation ever. Just hung out with my family, some of whom I hadn't seen in a little bit. So, it was basically me and my whole family. But then, like, of course, we had times where my siblings and I would just kind of like hang out to the side, and we did one of two things. We either would drink a bit, or I bought, because like back in the day, early 2000s, we all used to be super, super, super into Yu-Gi-Oh. So I bought one of these retro boxes of like basically this pack that was called Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and so we basically opened like a full box of that, and each of us did like 8 booster packs, and we basically made like the weekend because even though it was a great box set to help you get into the game, it's definitely a terrible box set if you want to like actually build a good deck. So we all had terrible decks, but that was just what added to the fun. It's just like the 3 of us dueling each other, both really, really bad decks. So it was just a lot of fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, spending the time with them, and just my whole family all together.
That's cool, man. Look, I'm ready to get back into this year, man. 2024. I'm hoping we have some amazing goals here for Hero Report. We're kind of sitting at like 1,600 subscribers right now. If we can get that to like 3K, if not even 5K by the end of the year, that would be awesome. If anything, guys, the only way we continue to grow here is if you continue to share and like our videos. So if you haven't supported the channel yet, please go ahead and hit that like button. It really takes no time at all to go ahead and certainly show your support. If you want to help us out monetarily, you can definitely go ahead and submit a super chat, a super sticker if you'd like to. We'll go ahead and stop what we're doing. We'll certainly focus on your super chat you've sent in, and definitely give you the floor around here to express your thoughts and opinions. And again, any support certainly does go to allowing our channel to continue to grow. New effects, new logos, new designs, new equipment, and things like that. So if you guys would like to see this show continue to grow, please go ahead and support the channel in any way that you certainly can, because we definitely have some big plans for Hero Report come 2024. Shout out to those over on TikTok. MT Eddie, good to certainly see you around here. Who else we got? Let's give some love to people that have joined us over on our YouTube side and Facebook, wherever you're certainly watching us at. We're also live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch for you gamers out there. So wherever you want to check us out at, we're certainly available. Enrique, what's up, Enrique? He says, hey, Adam, Happy New Year. Can't wait to see all the movies that will be released in 2024, including Inside Out 2, Kung Fu Panda 4, Deadpool 3, and new shows on Disney+. If you guys missed it, Stewart, Indy, and myself, we actually did a most anticipated top 5 most anticipated movies of 2024. Get an idea of what we're looking forward to. Certainly go ahead and check out that video. I had some fun doing that. Stewart, how hard was it for you to shrink it down to just 5 movies you're excited about?
Not as challenging as last year, only because for this particular year, just I don't know, there just haven't been as many announcements as we're kind of used to. So like I'll also say this: like when I made my list, I didn't even know there was a 4th Kung Fu Panda movie in the works. And then what was the? Oh yeah, Deadpool 3 I put on my list, of course. But yeah, there were a couple other movies that I'm only just now finding out are coming out next year that I definitely would have put on my list, like in retrospect. But
I wonder if it's like the lack of also DC and Marvel movies, you know, since we're not getting very many. I think we're only getting 1 MCU film this year in Deadpool 3. That clearly made, I think, all of our lists. No, I don't think it made Indy's list, because I think he said that's not something he's anticipating anymore. It's almost like, I don't want to say homework, but it's just like, it's like ingrained in him to just watch Marvel Studios content now.
Yeah.
Who else we got in here? We got Blossom certainly joining us. Ram Jam in the house. He says, hope you had a great Christmas and New Year's. Marcelino, what's up, Marcelino? You know, APlus Hero Report is not complete without Marcelino joining us for sure. Today, my questions are long, but they do have a reason to be. Plus, it's not as long as it looks once you break it down. All right, well, appreciate the heads up. We'll definitely be looking forward to that. We got Johnny in the house. He says, I'm sorry I'm late, but also Happy New Year, buddy. I was very sick during New Year's. Not pretty. Oh, God, that's terrible, Johnny. Hopefully, you're doing better, man. Hopefully, you're recovering. We're almost a week out from New Year's, so I really do hope that the rest of your New Year's at least goes incredibly well. You know, we didn't go out and see any fireworks this year. We kind of played it safe. The girlfriend and I, we wind up maybe having a couple of drinks once the baby was down and just enjoying the New Year on the television that way, watching some great like drone performances that they had outside of the Dallas Reunion Tower out here. It was pretty amazing. Did you go see any fireworks at all, Stuart, or no?
No, we went to all you can eat Korean barbecue, got really drunk there because we had the soju tower, and then we went back to my apartment, and I messed up because I was trying to look for a countdown video that was live on YouTube, and I think I accidentally hit one that must have been like Eastern time because they ended up not doing the countdown. We just noticed, hey, it's midnight, guys, and there's no countdown, and so we're like, let's just say we did it. So we're like, Happy New Year's.
That's so funny, man. Yeah, that's definitely happened to me a couple times before, especially here being on the Central Coast. I'll be trying to find things here in Texas, like where's a live stream here in Texas somewhere, and they'll be playing the East Coast stuff still, you know. So yeah, it could definitely trick you for sure.
Yeah.
But
thank you catch to not having live TV, because you know, we don't have any live TV. We're just completely on streaming services. So
you don't have like you don't have like rabbit ears, like digital antennas or anything like that to catch like the high definition that comes off for the national channels.
No, I didn't even think those worked anymore.
Oh yeah, we have a pair right here. I'm able to watch like all my football on Sundays, and just I get all my national televisions, that's national channels, just with just you know HD digital rabbit ears. You can get it at Walmart or something like that, pretty cheap.
Yeah, that might get that then. Cool.
It's a nice switch up from streaming every once in a while. Like, what's going on in the real world these days? Like, I should probably watch something going on. But thank you guys for certainly joining us today. Listen, you guys know how this works here. If this is your first time watching us here at A Plus Hero Report, we are a long form YouTube channel. We don't really take any shortcuts. We like to give you guys our thoughts in great detail and break things down for you. So if that's what you like, you're in the right place. We start off with our honorable mentions, topics that didn't quite make the cut for our main topics, but felt you certainly deserve to know. We'll get into 6 main topics, and then we'll certainly wrap up this episode with your guys' live viewer questions. If you want to submit a live viewer question, just go over to the YouTube page, click on that community tab, and there is a live viewer question post. Feel free to go ahead and fill that out, and Stewart and I will try and tackle all those questions at the end of the episode. If for some reason, if we don't get to all of them, we definitely will be doing a side video for you guys later on in the week. But again, wherever you're watching us from, whether that be Facebook, Instagram, well, I guess we're not live on Instagram as of yet. We're working on that for sure. Twitch, TikTok, we appreciate you guys. Feel free to always let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below as we go through these topics, because we always want to bounce our ideas and things like that off of you, and see how this goes. So, Stewart, let's get into our first segment, shall we?
We're muted for some reason.
Oh, we're good. All right, honorable mentions. Do you have any honorable mentions today, Stewart? Any chance?
Kind of. It's not anything like big news or anything like that. It's just stuff that we already knew, just something I kind of thought was really interesting. So, I believe like Superman and Lois is going into production sometime this week, along with Superman Legacy, and just think it's kind of cool that this is the first time where there's going to be 2 very separated, Superman projects in development at the same time. So, I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I didn't know Superman and Lois was getting in front of the camera, but I feel like that's a pretty good sign. I am curious as to, if anything, I would assume that they probably will film some episodes, get those in the can, start working on post-production, and hopefully have some episodes ready by the fall time this year. I almost feel like similar to how they did in the past couple series for Arrowverse, whenever there was scheduling conflicts or pauses in production, we wind up getting a couple of hiatuses in between this season. And I know this season for Superman and Lois is going to be rather short. Do you expect some sort of like mid hiatus so they can kind of catch up to production, or do you think they'll only drop it when everything is complete?
I hope they drop it when everything's complete, because that's one of the things that I loved about season 3. So seasons 1 and 2, it just felt so much like they were always behind on production. Like you'd get 3 episodes in, and then suddenly you have to wait 5 weeks before the next episode. But we didn't have that problem with season 3. The only hiatuses we had during season 3, because when they filmed it, I think by the time it was airing, they were already like on the last couple episodes. So when we had hiatuses, they were usually planned hiatuses. Like usually it was because there was a big sporting event going on, and those kind of hiatuses I totally get. You're trying to get, because your views aren't going to be that high because people are going to be watching the big game or something like that. So as long as those are the only hiatuses we get, I'll be totally happy. So I'm hoping they wait before dropping the episodes.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. I hope so too. Let's see here. Yeah, and then Superman Legacy going into production this year too. I cannot wait. 2025 is going to be a big year, and not just for DCU anymore, but for Marvel also. It's like everybody's taking a year hiatus to hopefully erase people's memories of some of the lackluster movies we've gotten, and hopefully can correct their course and really give us some high quality movies going forward. So a lot to definitely look forward to, especially when it comes to the Superman franchise. Something that you guys should start getting aware of and ready for, Echo is right around the corner, baby. January 9th. It's going to be dropping in literally 2 days here. I thought this was a really cool poster that they wind up dropping this week, an ASL poster for those in sign language and things like that. So I love the idea that we get to see this Echo poster here. And this week, they actually gave us even more footage from the Echo series. They did have a mini teaser trailer that they wind up dropping along with the behind the scenes of the action that was going to take place. And have you had the opportunity to check those out, Stuart, at all?
Yeah. I don't know if it's the same one you're describing, but there was one that I saw that actually had some clips from the Daredevil TV show
Yes,
mixed
that was
into it.
the I think that was the teaser that they gave us. Yes.
Yeah, I love it because this is, I mean, I kind of thought this with Moon Knight, but with Moon Knight, it felt like a PG-13 version of what like a Netflix Marvel show looked like, or what a Netflix Marvel show was like, but with a bigger budget and just a PG-13 rating. This one though, Echo, just straight up looks like a Marvel Netflix show, but with a high budget. Just both like kind of like in the fact that it's rated TV in May, and the fact that they kind of have like a much it's probably like the filter that they use for the
Mhm.
show, but it's definitely got like a much like grimier, gritty kind of look to it that I'm really looking forward to seeing back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, I think they did that in a way to like establish, like, hey guys, I don't want to say like it's all connected because I'm still waiting for Kevin Feige to establish that, but I think they definitely are setting up the idea that look how closely identical our series is to what you remember the Kingpin as and what you remember Daredevil as, and we're taking that same level of grittiness and violence and we're just engulfing it right into our Echo series. So it feels like it's just almost one continuous journey of a story for some of these characters, and Echo story is now sort of like the next one up. So I would agree with you. I love the callback to the Netflix stuff. I appreciate them not being afraid to utilize that footage, and if anything, I think that just amplifies Echo even a little bit more, just not a sense of like we have not missed a step. We're coming at you, and this is going to be as hardcore as it gets when it comes to just violence and its grittiness, and really establishing another sort of on the ground character for us to enjoy. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how this series goes. And look, I feel like Stuart, I'm already eating my words. Like I have not seen this series, but my going into it, my mentality was the only way Marvel Studios is dropping all these episodes at once has got to be because this series is trash, because they're afraid of it, they want to hide it, they just want to get it out of the way real quick and dive into sort of the new year the rest of the way. But seeing just some of the clips, look, anybody can put together really great trailers, but man, I got to tell you, just seeing the action, the dialogue, some of the characters in here, I think this is going to be something really, really special. Did you happen to see the behind the scenes footage at all?
No, I don't think I did.
It was just really a showcase of the action sequences.
Hmm.
And you know, I am ready to see more of the actress Aliqua Cox, who plays Maya Lopez in here, but just seeing her train, the viciousness of some of this fight choreography that they're giving us, there's a really cool, because of the fact that she's a deaf character, there's a really cool sequence that they show in there, almost like a one shot, very, again, very Daredevil-esque in the sense of long, unedited, one-shot fights, but it's all muffled. So it sounds like it's coming from the perspective of Maya, who can't really hear. So you hear in the gunshots and the punches, but it's all very muffled and silent at the same time. It looks incredible, honestly. So I cannot wait for this series. It definitely have changed my course in regards to my anticipation level, man. But everybody looks like they're going to bring their A game. And if anything, Stuart, I would just ask you, like, the concept of bringing something like Daredevil Born Again and realizing that Marvel is now going back to the drawing board, uh, there's a part of me that's really bewildered in the sense of like, how can you look at something like Echo and then create something like Daredevil Born Again that potentially had maybe a different tone and pace in general, right? Like, I just feel like that would just feel way too sort of disjointed with how they've managed to show the Kingpin, Echo, and Daredevil in these series. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially because you had a formula that really worked with Daredevil, because everyone like who's seen the Netflix Daredevil show absolutely loves it. So why wouldn't you just kind of continue with that formula if it worked so well? I From what I hear, again, like I haven't seen those 3 episodes that were supposedly so bad it got the entire show scrapped. But I hear that, like, one of the biggest things is Foggy and Karen get killed off screen. And
What?
yeah, and it's like, yeah, if you do something like that with characters that people really love from the show, it's no wonder that, like, it's no wonder that they wanted to start this one over. So I hope that if Echo does really good, that'll kind of be kind of a good message to Marvel that, hey, it's great that we have like the fun adventure Marvel movies that are, more family oriented, but the Marvel universe is a big one. Not everything that goes on in that universe is happy. I think that we should be allowed to see kind of a darker, grittier side to the Marvel universe. And I think that if Echo is as good as the trailers look, that might be a good way to show Marvel that this is something that audiences would be interested in.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I don't want to take away from like Daredevil's appearance in something like She-Hulk because I really enjoyed Charlie Cox in there. I appreciated the levity that they wind up sort of bringing that character sort of all at the same time. But when you are focusing on these grounded characters like this, especially in their own show, I think it's important to kind of stick with what got you to the championship in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we'll see how it goes.
Because I agree with you. I love Daredevil and She-Hulk, but if Daredevil's TV show was written
Was
in a
like
similar
that?
manner,
Yeah.
I would be very, very disappointed. you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Marcelino says, I saw some people analyzing the one-shot Echo fight, and they say it's one of the worst fights ever put to screen and insults the Daredevil show. Look, I don't even know if these people have had the opportunity to even see these full episodes yet. Are they just basing it off of the quick clips that we've seen so far? But I would always say, look, we haven't even seen the series yet. So give things an opportunity and a shot before you start immediately kind of putting it down. Like I feel like I've learned my lesson like that in certain areas. And just alone, Stewart, from what I've seen in the trailers, I'm like, there's just no way it's that bad. There's no way it's that bad as people are making it out to be. So yeah, just all aboard the hate train as usual.
Oh yeah, and I'll say this: I can't say for sure because I haven't seen the show or I haven't seen the fight that people are talking about. But I will say that at times it kind of feels like people try extra hard to pick apart fight scenes if it's like from a show that involves like a female main character. And that's when they, instead of just looking at the whole fight as a big picture, they'll
Right.
do it like they'll break it down like in slow motion just to look for all like the minor things that don't work. And I got news for you. Even the best action movies out there have scenes like that. The problem is you love those movies so much, you don't want to like pause and look at every action scene that way, because then it's going to ruin it for you. You only want to look at the action scenes in movies you don't like. So that way, it helps your argument basically. And I'm not trying to say that that is 100% the case for Echo. Again, I haven't seen Echo,
We
so
haven't
for
seen
all
it
I
yet.
know,
Yeah.
it might actually be one of the worst fights ever. I'm just saying I've personally noticed that some people, specific people on the internet, will kind of go after, usually female oriented action movies. And that's when they'll be a lot more critical than they would have been if it was one that, starred a guy.
And I think that's the key, is more critical. I think they break things down apart a little bit differently for them, but
Exactly.
we'll see how the series goes. Last honorable mention for me, guys, and Stuart, I'm surprised you didn't bring this one up, man, but we've talked about this before. Steamboat Willie, Mickey
That's
Mouse,
right.
is now public domain. We've had
Great
um,
photo.
Blossom says, haven't you heard Steamboat Willie is in public domain now? I heard they're doing something horror related on him. Hashtag childhood ruined. Yeah, they've got a couple of movies already on deck. There's actually a trailer for a movie called Mickey Mouse Trap that highlights Steamboat Willie already as a killer. If you want to check it out, it is currently up on our Facebook page for you guys to certainly enjoy. But yeah, we've got a couple. There's also like a Steamboat Willie video game. I think this is a clip or like a picture from it also. So there's a couple of games, a couple of movies certainly in the works, and it feels very much to it like they were just ready for this to drop. Like they have filmed this stuff already. They were just waiting for the countdown, and the day of, they're just releasing a flood of information for this stuff. How do you feel about Steamboat Willie becoming a horror film?
Finally, this I mean, no, not to the horror part. I meant to the finally of Steamboat Willie being public domain, because this is something that Disney, every time he's about to become public domain, they constantly are trying to move back the copyright date, so that way they can keep Steamboat Willie as like their own property, but it also prevents other things from becoming public domain in doing so. So this is a huge win that it is public domain finally. And yes, I do like, thanks to Blood and Honey, it feels like this is now going to always be a tradition that I am totally fine with, which is that the moment something, usually something childhood related, goes public domain, it's like we got to make a horror movie on it. I think it all kind of started, honestly, even though like Blood and Honey was the first one to really take advantage of the copyright laws, or lack thereof. But
Right.
I think this really all started though with oh crap, what was that show? The Banana Splits. Because I think the Banana Splits was the first movie where they had like a horror, movie based on a child's property, even though it wasn't because it was like public domain. It was just because a studio just happened to figure out that they had the rights to Banana Splits and they wanted to do something very weird with it. And I think ever since then, that's what kind of started this trend of, okay, now whenever a kid's property is public domain, we are totally going to make it into a horror movie. And I'm glad I'm here for that,
Yeah, no, I feel you, man. I'm here for that too. There's a lot of opportunities out there, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do here. I didn't check out Blood and Honey yet, but it is getting itself a sequel, that's for sure. It didn't have the greatest reviews, but because it was made on such a budget, I think it made a ton of money in regards to what it was made for. So they are up in the production value for Blood and Honey 2, which I think drops this February. So a lot to look forward to. So yeah, a lot of childhood characters getting that opportunity to now be turned into other material. So we'll see how Steamboat Willie does in the horror genre. But that will do it for our honorable mentions. I think there's one other honorable mention. I didn't put this up here, but Jonathan Majors is in the news again because he's actually doing a sit-down interview this upcoming Monday, I believe, after being found guilty. And I think MCU has dropped him. He is going to be doing a sit-down interview. I can't remember what channel it's going to be on or the program, but Jonathan Majors will be coming out and talking this upcoming Monday. I personally don't want to. I don't know. I just don't want to hear from him at the moment because I just feel like he's just going to dig his grave a little bit more. I think he just should honestly just lay low. But I'm sure he's probably got some things he's got to get off his chest. So if you guys are interested in seeing the Jonathan Majors, you can go ahead and check him out this Monday.
Yeah, definitely.
That'll do it for our honorable mentions.
Awesome.
All right. Stuart,
I'm so sorry. I got one more honorable mention that I just remembered, and I remembered it because I'm looking at our main topics. So Patrick Stewart has teased that there might be a Picard movie in development. I don't know if star him or if it's going to be like a younger actor playing him in like a prequel series. Maybe it could even be a Picard that takes place in the Calvin timeline. Who knows? But yeah, he did talk about there being a script in development, and all he said, he didn't say whether he's a part of it or not. He just said he's really excited for it.
Nice. I mean, how old is he right now? How old is Patrick Stewart?
Really old now. And that's what makes me like kind of wonder, like, is he, oh man, not to be dark, but is he even going to be around when the script is ready to go? That being said, if he's excited for it, I'm excited for it because the man loves Star Trek. So I'm sure he wouldn't be like, hyping it up if he thought it was going to be bad or if he just thought it was a cash grab,
I am really disappointed in myself that I haven't followed up with the Picard series. Honestly, I was a big Next Generation and Voyager fan growing up as a kid, and so I've seen all the TNG movies that they've released. So I'm a little bit bummed that I haven't kept up with his future, if you will, in regards to what he's been up to now. So, I look, if they can make one more movie and make it compelling, why not, man? Why not?
Yeah.
But all right, guys, that will do it for our honorable mentions. Let us know some of your thoughts in the comment section box below on some of the topics that we brought to your attention. But with that out of the way, Stuart, are you ready to get into our main topics, man? Look, we got 6 main topics. that I think we're really going to dig into today. And I'm really excited. We may hurt some people's feelings today. We may uplift some people with what we got to say. Who certainly knows? But let's go ahead and get into this news. Are you ready to join me, buddy?
Always.
First up, ladies and gentlemen, we got some MCU news on deck as Marvel Studios really takes a step back as it tries to get itself ready for unleashing brand new films for us. They've been trying to go back to maybe the drawing board, tighten up some of their scripts, have some reshoots. Certainly looking forward to the future to really add extra quality to these films for us. One of those films being Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts, I believe, was supposed to go ahead and drop originally this like July of this year, I believe, but it's now been pushed back to next year. I also believe that this movie is going to be getting in front of cameras rather soon. And unfortunately for Thunderbolts, they have now hit another hiccup in production, as unfortunately one of their main stars, or one of the big stars that they had plans for, in Steven Yeun, most notably known from his time in The Walking Dead. He also voices Invincible on the Amazon Prime animated series. He was just in the hit Netflix series Beef as well. Steven Yeun was originally scheduled to go ahead and be the Sentry, making his MCU debut in Thunderbolts, but unfortunately, we got news this week that he has stepped away from the project, Stewart. Major bummer for some people, honestly, but let's go ahead and bring this up. This comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter. Steven Yeun will not star in the Marvel's Thunderbolts. Like many tentpoles across Hollywood, it was delayed amid the dual writers and actors strike. It says Steven Yeun will not be suiting up for the Thunderbolts. The anti-hero centric feature in the works from Marvel Studios, sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. It says Yoon's involvement in Thunderbolts was first reported. Why is this so sensitive? Was first reported back in February, though Marvel never officially announced the casting. 5 months earlier, during the D23 presentation, they did reveal a bunch of other actors and Marvel mainstays who would be in the film. It says, like many tentpoles, Thunderbolts was struck by last year's dual writers and actors strike, which put schedules in disarray across Hollywood. And so it says Jack Schreier is directing Thunderbolts, which is rumored to assemble a team of Marvel's anti-heroes and villains. So yeah, it looks as though he is going to be leaving the project itself. But Steven Yeun this week also, Stewart, he did come out and have some words to kind of clarify, like, as to why he's leaving. So if people are wondering, like, is it the script he's not liking? Does he just not feel connected to this character anymore? According to Steven Yeun, he says he is sorry that he dropped out of Marvel's Thunderbolts, cites the strike and scheduling issues. So it says Steven Yeun is speaking out about his departure. It says while celebrating the opening of West Hollywood on Wednesday night, Yeun got the opportunity to speak to Variety. He says, I think for me, time passing and things shifting kind of pulled me out of it, as what Yeun explained. But Jack Schreier, I know, is going to do an incredible job. He says, I want to do a Marvel movie, he added. Yoon's involvement in Thunderbolts was first reported back in February, but again, never officially confirmed. It says, he also says, it took a lot of drafts on email to make sure that I conveyed the sincerity of how sorry I was to have to back out. Asked what Marvel movie he would like to work on in the future, Yeun replied, I think it's too early to say that. I've probably pissed off too many people leaving, so I'm just going to say thank you for having me. I have some ideas, Yeun teased, but I've heard that if you put it out there, you'll never get it. So I'll keep it close to my chest. And you know what, Stuart? I'm a big fan of his sincerity here. I'm a big fan of how he's approached this, in the sense of he doesn't want to get himself too ahead of himself here. I think he clearly understands just how big of an opportunity this potentially was, not just for himself, but well, really pretty much for himself here in regards to being attached to a big MCU film. You know, he has a relationship with Jack Schreier, who's directing, along with the writer as well of this film, which I think probably helped open the door for him a little bit as well. So the idea of him having to back out, you know, with Marvel Studios being such a big company, the idea of backing out, especially when you know that you're about to kind of go in front of cameras, is probably not the best of looks. So I'm just glad that he's really self-aware, that he doesn't want to boast about, oh yeah, I'm going to be in the MCU again, yada yada yada. He understands that I don't want to burn any bridges, so I'm just going to be as sincere and as sorry about this as I possibly can. And I'm sure he absolutely means it. I'm sure that this is probably a role he was really looking forward to. But yeah, man, it looks as though the strikes really kind of jacked this one up for him. I am curious if Marvel has a go-to now, if they have themselves a backup candidate in regards to who they're now going to have as sort of their next Sentry, if you will. Um, but it's a bummer move. But I'm going to also be honest here, Stuart. As much as I like Steven Yeun, I have never really cared for this acting choice so much. And it's not so much of his ability. I guess when I just think of the Sentry, I think of just a completely different character. But if anything, I don't know what the script entails, right? Because I think Sentry starts off as like a homeless man that's kind of forgotten about, right? A hero that um, was around years ago, but I think the world has kind of forgotten about him, and so he might have turned out to be like some bum on the street for all I know right now. So maybe this is something that Steven Yeun really could have sort of sunk his teeth into. Um, but for other reasons, not just his acting ability. But again, when I think of somebody like the Sentry, I'm thinking of like Henry Cavill or like some guy that's like at least 6 foot tall. Somebody that has a presence on screen. And so, not to say that Steven Yeun doesn't, but when you're trying to capture somebody like the Sentry, whether he's a homeless man turned into a superhero, I want there to be some gravitas on screen in that regards. And so, again, the casting never worked for me so much. Again, not to say anything about his talent, but again, the script could be asking for something completely different that doesn't line up with what I personally would like to see. So a little bit of a bummer in that regard. So I'm sad that he is missing out on an opportunity, but I will be interested to see how Marvel Studios rebounds here. But you hear him being sincere and apologizing and saying, "Look, I've got some ideas here, but I'll keep them close to the chest and see if I get another opportunity again." Do you think we'll see Steven Yeun eventually in an MCU movie, or do you think his opportunity has passed him by? And what do you think of this news?
I don't want to say he burned any bridges because, yeah, like you said, his apology did seem extremely sincere. So I do think that, it's possible we could see him again, but it's hard to say because, it really just depends on, how Marvel Studios themselves kind of felt about his departure, if they appreciated the sincerity of his apology, or if that wasn't good enough for them and they were like, nope, never gonna happen. But I do hope we get to see him in a another Marvel movie. He's a very talented actor, both actor and voice actor, because I freaking love him in Invincible. And of course he was I got introduced to him through The Walking Dead when he played Glenn on The Walking Dead. So great actor. That all being said, I'm not upset that he's not playing Sentry anymore. Kind of like what you said. Like, it's definitely not the actor you imagine when you see a character like Sentry. You kind of imagine someone like more built. And I don't know what kind of direction they were going to take Sentry in this movie. But so for all I know, the direction they were taking Sentry would have been perfect for Steven Yeun. I totally forgot how it's pronounced Yen, right? Or
Oh, maybe I've been calling him Yoon, but
oh,
it could be
Yoon.
Yen. It could be Steven
Oh,
Yen. I
Yoon
don't know.
or Steven Yeun, sorry. So yeah, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, right. So I think he's an amazing actor. I just didn't really see him as a Sentry. So I do think there are better Marvel characters that can utilize his talents better. Again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the direction they would have taken Sentry would have fit his acting very well. But to me, it kind of came off as they really wanted Steven Yeun in the MCU, and they were just willing to cast him kind of as anything in order to make it happen. So that's why they chose Sentry. So I kind of hope now, if he does come back to the MCU, which I do want to see, I just hope they pick a role that feels like it'd be more fitting for his acting talents rather than just like the role of Sentry. Because again, just not that I think he would have been bad, and not that I know what direction they would have taken Sentry, but just the way I see Sentry in the comic books and the way I see Steven Yeun's acting, I just don't know how it would have worked as that character personally.
No, I get you. I was sitting back this week and I was trying to think to myself, like, what role would I have Steven in? What other opportunities would I have him maybe come back in the MCU as? I don't know why a part of me goes back to Amadeus Cho, who plays one of the newer versions of the Hulk. I think maybe if Mark Ruffalo, I don't want to say ages out of the role, but if they want to introduce a brand new Hulk to us, I think maybe Amadeus Cho would be a good idea for them possibly. I think they might have introduced him in an Avengers movie already and maybe like Avengers 2, but maybe I'm tripping in that regards. But I am kind of curious what direction that they would go. I mean, they don't have a problem in swapping people out race wise when it comes to some of these characters. So maybe they have something else in mind, but I think Amadeus Cho would be a good opportunity for him somewhere down the totally awesome Hulk. I think Amadeus Cho is like a super brilliant guy or genius or something like that. So I wouldn't mind something along those lines. But I'm kind of curious if you have anything in mind as to like another character you might want to see him as.
I think that's a good choice, Amadeus Cho. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything at the moment, but I'm sure something will appear. Yeah.
But so I'm really hoping that this movie still comes together. Again, we got Thunderbolts that's set to drop in 2025 now. I am kind of curious if this switch up, if it's delayed them even more, or if they are going to be ready by the time cameras are supposed to be rolling. But I love the idea here of this ensemble cast. I think this movie is certainly going to surprise. I think they have a really strong creative team certainly behind it, and I'm eager to see what they do. But guys, let us know your thoughts. How disappointed are you in Steven Yeun stepping down due to scheduling conflicts and not being able to be a part of this film any longer? Enrique says, how is it going to replace Steven Yeun in the Thunderbolts film? I got to imagine that when they had like a casting call, that they probably picked like a top 3. Or they had other people in mind as well. So it would not be surprising to me if with Steven Yeun dropping out, if they're now extending contracts to maybe the second place person that they had in mind or the third place person that they certainly had in mind for this particular role. What do you think, though, Stewart?
Yeah, I'm sure whoever his understudy was is probably just thinking that this was never going to happen, because you rarely hear about actors dropping from a Marvel role. So I'm sure whoever the understudy is super excited right now.
Yeah, talk about opportunities opening the door for you, and yeah, what a blessing. So we'll see how it comes along. We'll see. I'm sure we'll probably get an announcement here rather soon, probably within the next month or two. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. You going to say something, Stewart, real quick?
Oh, I'm just thinking, like, after this movie comes out, it'll be funny if we all leave the theater going, Sentry would have been better if it was played by Steven.
I mean, I think it's a possibility, right? That's why I said, if anything, it's one of those things where we haven't seen the script, so maybe he is perfect for this particular role. Marcelino says, I kind of like the idea of a Superman character who doesn't look built or give off a presence, but once you underestimate, you take back everything you say. The ultimate never judge a book by its cover. I mean, that could easily be it as well, Marcelino, for sure. I think you make a great point. Enrique says, I mean, who is going to replace Steven? That I don't know. I don't know who's going to replace him, but I'm sure time will tell. I would expect maybe another announcement here within about a month or so as to who it could potentially be. So start listening out for rumors and speculation for sure. All right, Stewart, with that topic out of the way, let's go ahead and move into our next one. And you brought this gentleman up, and that is Patrick Stewart is back in the news. The man that just like, I don't want to say he never ages, but like he's alive and kicking, y'all. I mean, this man just will not, I don't want to say will not go away, because I never want Patrick Stewart to certainly go away. I love his presence every time he's on screen and whatever role that he certainly has. I still remember him impactfully from his time in Logan, which was just an incredible performance by him. I don't know if he was nominated for an Oscar in Logan or not, but he probably should have been. But I love me some Patrick Stewart, but he's back in the news. And it seems as though the possibility of him coming back is out there in the universe, y'all. He is teasing the idea that we may, in fact, see him once again for Deadpool 3. I mean, we got ourselves a returning Hugh Jackman, and usually where Hugh Jackman is, not far behind, is Professor X. And so it should be interesting to see if that's what we get here. But Stewart, let's go ahead and dive directly into the words of Patrick Stewart himself, because not only does he talk a little bit about Deadpool 3, but he also really talks about how Doctor Strange 2 came together and some of his own personal thoughts about that. So let's go ahead and dive into this, man. This comes to us from variety.com. I'm going to go ahead and read this out for you guys real quick. It says, Patrick Stewart says, putting Charles Xavier in Deadpool 3 has come up. There's been a process. He says, Patrick Stewart has died many times on screen as Professor X, the beloved X-Men characters he first played all the way back in 2000 in the MCU ongoing multiverse. Means there's always room for him to come back. Stewart last popped up in the character in 2022 Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and he confirmed during a new interview that talks about reviving Professor X yet again in Deadpool 3 have come up. It says the two last shared screen, the screen in Logan, which featured both of their deaths, talking about Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart. With Wolverine back for Deadpool 3, it stands with good reason that Professor X might also pop up. This is what Patrick Stewart says directly. He says, I have every confidence he's still around, talking about Professor X after his death in the Multiverse of Madness. When the happy, sad, confused host brought up how Jackman must have called Stewart about Deadpool 3, given their history together, Stewart cracked a big smile. He goes on to say, I'm going to guess that I might see Patrick Stewart in Deadpool Wolverine movie. The host asked, and he says, it has come up. There's been a process. But the last 2 to 3 years has been so difficult with the labor problems and the health problems, COVID, you know? Stewart did not outright confirm Deadpool 3 appearance, nor did he describe what talks exactly took place, but it appears that he at least discussed a possible return as Professor X at some point during the development in Deadpool 3. He says he also goes on to talk a little bit about his time in Multiverse of Madness. Because of the COVID protocols, Stewart filmed his Professor X role in complete isolation and without involvement of the other actors. He was not a fan of the process. Patrick Stewart says, I was alone. In the big scene, each of the leading actors had the same solo experience. They were shot on their own. It was frustrating and disappointing, but that's how it has been. The last few years have been challenging. So, you know, Stewart, I find this pretty eye-opening. I will let you start off first, though, and you could talk about whatever you want, whether it's his time in Doctor Strange 2 or the idea of him talking about Deadpool 3, where he says it has come up. There's been a process in regards to potentially coming back for Deadpool 3. Do you think we're going to see Patrick Stewart return in Deadpool 3? What do you think?
I think it's a huge possibility for a cameo. I don't see him playing like a big role or anything. I do find it very interesting what he said about being frustrated about, like, you know, filming his scene in isolation, because yeah, you look at that scene from Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness with the Illuminati, and it's so clear that not a single actor was in the same room when they were filming it. And I think that's like one of the more like annoying parts about that whole scene is that like it makes sense when you're doing like a huge epic scene like at the very end of Avengers Endgame, where it's like you literally can't fit that many people into a studio, so of course they all have to kind of do their shots separately. But when you're doing like a team building scene like that, you know, when you have like a whole team assembled and you're making those kind of shortcuts, you know, I mean, I get it, scheduling conflict and you're rushing these movies out, but you know, you wouldn't have had this if you decided not to rush the movie out. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do hope that if he's in Deadpool 3, it's a scene where he's actually in the same room as Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman or whatever actors he's acting with. Or if he's not, hopefully it's a scene where they're super self-aware about it, like to the point where it's like the background almost looks like they're in a completely different area, or like you had Deadpool himself being like, oh hey, I'm just gonna hand this to this hand over here that we see, like, you know, reaching across the string. That's totally Patrick Stewart's, not a body double, you know, something like that. I hope they're self-aware about it. but yeah, it makes sense that Patrick Stewart would be frustrated about this, because you look at his friend Ian McKellen when he did the Hobbit trilogy. He did not like doing the green screen shots, pretty much, which was a majority of the movie. For him as an actor, there's some actors like Samuel Jackson, for example. He talks about the Star Wars prequels where he had no problem being in front of a blue screen like half the time. For him, it was super easy. But you look at Ian McKellen, and he was saying that it was so hard for him to get into character because it was so hard for him to see himself as being a wizard when, like, everywhere around him it's just basically green screens and studio lights, pretty much, compared to Lord of the Rings, where like a majority of it was like on location or in completely fully built interior designs and things like that. So that all being said, it makes total sense that filming a scene like that alone would be frustrating for Patrick Stewart. So I hope, knowing what he wants out of the character and knowing what we as fans want, I hope if he is in Deadpool 3, it's not a disappointing, and it's not just an annoying cash grab kind of, filmed right before it went to theaters type of scene.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when it comes to the X-Men films, they've really handled the Professor X character extremely well. And so with Ryan Reynolds coming back, Hugh Jackman on board, Sean Levy, I do think that they're going to take really good care of these characters to allow Professor X and Patrick Stewart as that character to just really shine and have some great moments. Like, I would agree with you. I think they are going to be very self-aware. When you're sort of wrapping up that side of the Marvel universe from over on Fox, I think they're going to have a lot of good fun. If Deadpool, or if Deadpool can recognize the idea that he was once Green Lantern and doesn't want to be put back into an all green CGI suit and reference it, I can easily see them bringing up like a multiverse of madness moment for for Professor X at some point in time in there. So I do hope that's something that certainly happens. For me personally, I think when it comes to, is Patrick Stewart going to return, I think it's almost a layup, honestly. I don't know how you end this off without both of them being in the movie. I don't, and I mean him and Hugh Jackman also. I don't know how big of a role he's going to have. I don't think he's going to have a role like he did in Logan, but I do think it'll certainly be impactful and certainly be meaningful. And I hope it officially wraps up his time as Professor X, as much as I've enjoyed seeing him. If anything, Stuart, it does make me curious, with us now being introduced to the mutants in the MCU. If you checked out the Marvels, especially towards the end credit scene, like, is Patrick Stewart gonna just continue to reprise his role until he just cannot do it anymore? Or do they literally have somebody else in mind for Professor X? You mentioned something about Patrick Stewart being in this role, and there are just like very few actors, I think, that just embody their characters so much that they're just so synonymous with them, right? Like, when you think of Iron Man, it automatically takes you to Robert Downey Jr. When you think of Wolverine, it's immediately Hugh Jackman and nobody else. It's the same thing with me when it comes to Professor X. Charles Xavier Patrick Stewart was born to be Charles Xavier, and I absolutely would love to welcome him back in this in Deadpool 3. As far as his time in the Multiverse of Madness, I would agree, Stuart. Like, that whole sequence just felt so disjointed and so out of place at times, that I think it does go to show you, again, I don't know if this is studio involvement at its worst, like something similar to that of Age of Ultron sort of thing, where they had way too many chefs in the kitchen. But there was a lot of great opportunity for Multiverse of Madness, that they really just kind of wasted a lot of characters, in the sense of like, hey, we just want them to be cameos and show up and not have any impact. Here's some of your great characters that we're going to kill off immediately, sort of thing. Like, I did not expect that to be the scenario for the Illuminati in this movie at all. I honestly thought they were going to have a more bigger and impactful moment, but they were really just like fodder for Scarlet Witch at that point. So I can understand his disappointment for sure, especially when you have big important characters like a Professor X. You want them to have bigger moments than what they did. And so for have somebody like Patrick Stewart, who's an incredible actor, struggle with having to perform all this stuff by himself along with every other actor as well, just maybe not the smartest of moves. But again, this movie was filmed in a completely different time because of COVID and because of the health problems. That I don't think that that's going to be a problem for something like a Deadpool 3. And so I think that's why if Patrick Stewart does return as Professor X, I think it's going to be much better than what we saw him in when it comes to Multiverse of Madness, just because I think he's going to be able to be on set, really interacting with these characters. So I'm really looking forward to his return if he returns. Again, this has not been confirmed, but clearly teasing that there's been a process and some talk certainly happening.
Something also, kind of related to this is with, when we talked about the Marvel's end credit scene, what was kind of cool was that they did have Kelsey Grammer coming back as Beast from the X-Men movies. But of course, he was CG in this. But in a recent interview, Kelsey Grammer did confirm that, yeah, he wasn't a big fan of voicing the character instead of actually playing it. But he did kind of say that if he comes back for the character in like a bigger role and not just like a little tease, he's like, no, I'm not doing this unless I have the actual suit to put on. So hopefully kind of in that same way, in the same way they know that Kelsey Grammer doesn't want to play Beast unless he's in the suit. Hopefully they realize that Patrick Stewart doesn't want to be Professor Xavier unless they're going to do it right. And I think that if any movie's going to do it right, it's Deadpool 3.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But guys, let us know your thoughts when it comes to Patrick Stewart teasing the Deadpool 3 return. Are you expected to certainly see him in there? What did you think about his role in Doctor Strange 2 as he talks about some of the difficulties and the problems that he certainly had with filming that scene? Let us know your thoughts and some of the things that he's certainly talking about. And I am jumping off of also what Chicken on a Stick had to say in here. I appreciate you coming through and showing your support here for our live stream. He says everyone should be fine with Stewart coming back. He's pretty much like J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. He is the perfect casting for the role. Just bring him back if he's down for it. Yeah, absolutely. Like Patrick Stewart, if you want to come back for a role, here you go, man. We'll give you something for sure.
I don't know why, but in my mind, when they said J.K. Simmons, I just thought J.K. Simmons as Professor Xavier, but he has kind of the attitude that he has from Whiplash, so he's just like a total asshole to all of the.
Marcelino says, fun fact about Deadpool: Gina Carano, who played Angel Dust in the first movie, says she would have loved to return for the sequel and develop a romantic relationship with Colossus. Interesting. I don't remember her in the first one. She was in the first one.
Yeah, I remember there was like that fight between her and Colossus at the very end.
That was her?
Yeah.
Why did I think that was somebody else? Man, I'm tripping. I don't know why I thought that was another actress, but appreciate you reminding me about that, Marcelino. All right, guys, with that out of the way, we are going to go ahead and transition from some Marvel talk over to one of my favorite franchises, and that is going to be Star Wars. As Star Wars is certainly back in the news. We haven't really had a lot of details about the upcoming Rey Skywalker movie. If you guys recall, Kathleen Kennedy a couple years ago, or maybe it was last year, I believe, at Star Wars Celebration, announced 3 brand new Star Wars movies that we were going to get. One from James Mangold, who was going to be doing a movie about the beginning of the Jedi, or the very first Force user. She also went ahead and announced a Dave Filoni-led Star Wars movie that was going to be taking place during this New Republic era, as these Disney Plus Star Wars shows continue to build up towards a monumental sort of movie event, if you will. And then she also went ahead and revealed a Rey Skywalker movie that is set to go ahead and take place anywhere between 10 to 15 years after Rise of the Skywalkers, the Rise of Skywalker. So very much establishing sort of a new era of Star Wars, along with some brand new writers and directors that were going to go ahead and bring this Rey Skywalker movie to life. And so this week, the director herself, Charmaine Obaid Chinoy, came out and talked a little bit about this movie and certainly what it meant for her. To say that it ruffled some people's feathers, Stewart, I think is an understatement. But we're going to dive into what she certainly had to say about the upcoming Star Wars project and really how people are kind of feeling about this, Stewart. So let's go ahead and bring this up. This comes to us from Variety.com. Says Daisy Ridley's new Star Wars director says it's about time we had a female filmmaker come forward to shape the galaxy far, far away. And boy, I can feel every man in the room shrinking right now. Boy, they do not like this idea. Daisy Ridley is coming back on the big screen in the new Star Wars movie, directed by Charmin Obaid Chinoy and written by Stephen Knight from Peaky Blinders. The film makes Obaid Chinoy the first woman and the first person of color to direct a Star Wars feature film. Stewart, she's immediately making Star Wars history. Previous film directors in the franchise include creator George Lucas, Irvin Kershner, Richard Marquand, J.J. Abrams, and Ryan Johnson. While television projects have featured female directors, most notably Deborah Chow, and they don't mention her in here, which I'm surprised, but was it was it Bryce Dallas Howard?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
directed several. That's weird that they don't mention her.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't mention her in this. The director goes on to say, she told CNN, "I'm very thrilled about the project because I feel what we're about to create is something very special. We're in 2024 now, and it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape a story in a galaxy far, far away." It says not too much is known about Ridley's Star Wars return, which will pick up with Rey following the events of the Rise of Skywalker. She did say that Kathleen Kennedy said that Ridley's new film will follow Rey as she builds a new Jedi Order. The executive teased a bit more about the plot in an interview with IGN, revealing Star Wars fans will pick up with Rey well over a decade. Kathleen Kennedy said, we're 15 years out from the Rise of Skywalker, so we're post-war, post-First Order, and the Jedi are in disarray, is what Kennedy confirmed. There's a lot of discussion going around. Who are the Jedi? What are they doing? What's the state of the galaxy? She's attempting to rebuild the Jedi Order based on the books, based on what she promised Luke. So that's where we're going. So some more eye-opening words here from Kathleen Kennedy as to what we could possibly expect from this film. But again, Charmaine Obaid Chinoy saying she's very thrilled about this project. They're creating something special. Now that we're in 2024, it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape a story in the galaxy far, far away. So yeah, man.
I love how that was just one thing that was said in the paragraph, but then that's what they wanted to put as the headline because they knew it would just piss off a very specific, you know,
it's that clickbait, bro. It's that clickbait.
Yeah. $10 says right now, if you go to the Quarterings YouTube channel, it's probably filled with women are ruining Star Wars again. You know, I bet you.
Chicken on the Stick says have to be very specific about feature film because all the women who directed don't count, I guess. Yeah, they definitely want to.
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard. Apparently,
I'm super shocked that they didn't even put her in there because to me, what's even more startling is like the Star Wars fans that have enjoyed The Mandalorian have always had really big praise for the episodes that she's personally directed, right? Mm-hmm. Like there have been people that have been saying like she needs a Star Wars movie at some point in time. And I personally think as a director, she continues to get better and better when it comes to this. And I also think it's important to understand that Charmin Obaid Chinoy is directing the film. She's not the writer of this movie. I mean, granted, she probably has some input, but we also have to remember when it comes to the writing for this film, I think it was Damon Lindelof that I believe might have started the script on here. I believe he eventually it was eventually departed, and they wind up bringing in Stephen Knight, who has been doing Peaky Blinders, which even though I haven't seen it, I've heard incredible things about it. I think it's been nominated for Emmys if it hasn't won Emmys before. So we have some really great writers attached to this project. And when you have a director talking about the idea that we're going to get ourselves something really special, I'm kind of excited to see what they're referring to here, Stewart. But how do you take her words here? I mean, does it trigger you like it's triggered so many people so far?
Not necessarily. I'm kind of used to just like at this point something that someone will say that could come off as even just the slightly bit, like the slightest bit too feminist, like people will, like we see here for an example, they'll use that as like kind of the highlight to make it seem like that's all they're talking about is, oh, because this is a movie directed by a woman, if you don't see this and if you don't like this, you're sexist. I don't think that's like what they're trying to say. I think it's just that people will take quotes like that out of context, use it to make it seem like it's like, I don't know what, because I really don't want to use like certain terms that like are just overused on the internet. Like, but basically, people will try to make it look like this movie's trying to be like overly woke, if that makes sense. Which I don't think that's what they're going for. I think that's just the way headlines are going. It's that's what they're trying to make it look like, again, because they know that that's the kind that's going to lead to more discussion on the internet. So yeah, more people will talk about it, more people will know about the movie, more people will see it, that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say it triggers me at all or anything like that. I think that they I don't know. I do kind of to an extent say that like maybe they're patting themselves on the back way too fast, way too early, before the movie's even gotten into production. Cause to me, I can't say, for sure, because obviously I am a white male, so I don't know what it would be like in that perspective. But I am assuming, you haven't even directed a movie yet, right? Or this particular movie yet. So and it's a big property like Star Wars, so there's already kind of a big amount of pressure on you. So to me, I just don't know how I would feel if I was in that person's shoes, and suddenly like now there's that added pressure of, oh, you are the first woman of color to be directing. You're not only the first woman to be directing a Star Wars movie, you are also the first woman of color to be directing a movie. Because then you just add that extra pressure that just really doesn't need to be there. You know what I mean? Again, I can't say for sure. That is just how I am looking at it through the point of view of a white male. So that is not me trying to speak for anyone else. I don't want anyone to misquote me on that. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think we need to focus on that, especially not this early. I think if anything, wait for the movie to come out and then talk about how great it is that, we had an amazing Star Wars movie that was directed by a woman of color, that kind of thing. I think that when you try to highlight that a little bit too early, it puts on too much pressure. But let me know what you guys in the comments think, and same with you, Adam. I'm curious what you think of that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, especially when it comes to like media and stuff, I do think that they focus on a lot of the wrong things. I think that they choose to make these. I feel like media outlets choose to make movies about certain things that it may not even necessarily be the main focus of the movie by the time that we get to actually see it. Like as impactful as I know that this movie is going to be, it's one of those things where it's like, I think I don't want to say they're purposefully trying to trigger people, but I just think that they're getting like that's a message that I do think, while it certainly deserves to be out there, I think you have to focus on the idea of like, we're just trying to make a great story. We're just trying to make a good movie first, and everything else comes after that. So when you have media outlets that put these clips out there, or these, little pieces of lines that they say that they know are going to trigger people, I think you're kind of immediately setting up this movie to be attacked instead of focusing on the concept of just filmmaking and putting together a movie. And again, that's not to say that this stuff should be pushed to the back and forgotten about. That's stuff that should be celebrated. It deserves to be celebrated. But again, when you're coming out of the gate, knowing how people have sort of taken a character like Rey Skywalker, how people have felt about the sequel trilogy, I do think that you have to be very, I don't want to say careful about how you market this film, but I think you have to emphasize the story first before anything else. And I don't think that's what Lucasfilm is trying to do. I think that's media doing that. You know what I mean? So I think that's how that comes across sometimes. Marcelina says, do you think the Rey film will fix some of people's problems with Rey being a Mary Sue, or will they never be appeased and always complain? Look, there's always going to be a segment of people that are just going to not care for this character, regardless of what you do, right? You can have the best writers in the world come in and build upon the Rey character in such a way that it really fixes the problems that people might have had. But then there are going to be people out there going to be like, oh, it's too late. They should have done that in the sequel trilogy and not in this film. And like, they're always going to find a reason to be sort of upset and not necessarily like a character in that regards. And I think Chicken on a Stick mentions it. He's like, I don't know how you go about fixing that at this point. People who hate the character will keep hating her no matter what. I think they have a better off going to totally. I think they'd have a better off going to a totally different direction. So I don't think you make this movie to appease people, right? You make this movie because you have a story that needs to be told, and you think it's one that's going to be impactful, not just for Rey, but also for the universe in general. So for me, Stewart, look, people can immediately look at this quote from Charmin and immediately think to themselves like, oh, women want to take over the galaxy now. What does she mean by it's about time that a woman come forward and shape the story? They just want to take over our franchise and our fandom and make it all women. Like, when I look at that, Stuart, yes, I do think that people can look at that quote and, fear monger all they want to and think that's what's happening behind the scenes. But if I personally want to take that quote in a different direction, I can easily apply this just storyline wise to Rey Skywalker. I mean, we look at the original trilogy, main character, a male, Luke Skywalker, right? You look at the prequel trilogy, main character, Anakin Skywalker, a male. You look at the sequel trilogy, while it definitely has Rey Skywalker as the forefront, that movie is bombarded with original trilogy characters, like a Han Solo male character, Luke Skywalker male character. Eventually Leia comes into play here, at least when it comes to Last Jedi and having a presence a little bit in Rise of Skywalker sort of thing. So I wouldn't even look at the sequel trilogy so much as a Rey-focused female sort of story. So the idea that's like in 2024, after this franchise has been around for so long, you're going to tell me that maybe it's not about time that a woman come forward and shape the story in the galaxy far, far away, allowing this to be sort of Rey's story when she has to then build a Jedi Order. I'm curious what her relationship is like when it comes to the Senate. What personal struggles is she kind of going through when she feels this burden of, I want to keep the teachings of the Jedi, but I also want to be remembered about what Luke told me and be very cautious about things like that. So I think this is another way you can look at it, in a sense of this is Rey's story. This is her focus, no other additional characters from the past kind of holding her down. And we're in a new era of Star Wars where it's really going to be guided by the decisions of Rey Skywalker and how that certainly molds the future of Star Wars, certainly going forward. And I think the fact that alone frightens people is just like, where's your head at? It's just one of those things that just boggles my mind sometimes, that we can't just look at things from a perspective of just storytelling, that we got to make it so divisive and be gatekeepers. Like, Stuart, I saw this. I really don't want to go on a tangent, man. I really don't. It's just one of those things where it's just like, people will complain about where Star Wars is right now as a fandom, right? Like, they may have been really upset with some of the content that we've gotten from Star Wars, whether that be television series sometimes, movie quality sometimes. But I want to remind people, a lot of those movies, oh, hey, Stuart, good to see you. Hey. A lot of those stories are written and directed by males, it's not like women are coming into Star Wars and like ruining what we have. Deborah Chow wrote the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And while that series is certainly not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, I have my issues with it, in the sense of giving a villain a redemption arc, having that main villain have more of a presence than Obi-Wan Kenobi. I do think that they certainly faltered in that regards. But I do think if you look around and just what Disney has done, it has been led by male directors. It has been led by male writers. all trying to sort of then write maybe up and coming female characters. And there's a part of me that also thinks that because that's been the case where we have had males in the position of power to write about females, I think then we're then getting a very disjointed kind of level of storytelling here where these characters are not necessarily connecting with the audience. So where it's like, look, if a female is going to be one of the main characters in here, there is a part of me that kind of would like to see a female perspective write about a female character. And maybe if they understand these female characters better, then maybe they would create better stories in that regards. So this idea of like only males are allowed in here, that we can't have women tell stories in the Star Wars universe. I literally saw the YouTuber Star Wars Theory. And again, I haven't even watched the video, but I saw a thumbnail of him, Charmin Obey Chinoy, and Daisy Ridley. And on his thumbnail, it says, "Go away. Go away." Because of the fact that this woman said, hey, it's about time that a female sort of shaped the story of a galaxy far, far away. Really? And it's just one of those things where I think us as males, Stuart, I think we need to be challenged. I think we need to feel uncomfortable because I think we are way too comfortable in regards to thinking that we gatekeep everything. And I don't think we should be afraid by these words. I don't think this stuff should turn us off. If anything, I think we should go into these movies open-minded and maybe walk away learning a little bit something. And so it's just amazing to me that 95% maybe of Star Wars has been male driven all these years, with those women that have contributed greatly to Star Wars kind of being pushed to the background a little bit. And now that they're getting an opportunity and just saying what they feel is right, we have to respond to that in such a negative light that gatekeeps and keeps other people out of our fandom. And to me, that's just, I just find something really despicable and just really disgusting about that. Because I just think I think it just goes into the insecurity of some of these people that they have about themselves or just the direction in which the world is in, and just are not flexible enough to accept change when change comes and stop feeling so threatened. Because, you know, when I look at stuff like this, I think I feel like I just want to tell these men, sack up, Stewart. You know?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, like I'm gonna curse here. Maybe this will get demonetized, but man the fuck up, guys. Like, where are your balls at right now? The fact that you feel so insecure that a woman wants to come in and write a Star Wars movie, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, them and me are just not alike in that sense, because I don't know what it is about me that's different from how some people view this situation, but I just hate gatekeepers thinking that they know what's right for a fandom, that they know the only way that things should certainly go. You know, I think Charmaine Chinoy obeyed Chinoy at one point in time in a past interview back in 2015 that's been circulating on Twitter right now. She made a comment about, you know, I live to make men feel uncomfortable. Right. And the idea is that you walk away with that as just a clip. You just hear a segment of the entire discussion. You know, last night, Stuart, I spent 45 minutes going back and watching that full interview where Charmaine Obey Chinoy is not only there by herself, but she's also there with Meryl Streep. She's also there with Ava DuVernay, being hosted by Jon Stewart, who's talking about women's presence in the world. And the idea of how it has been a struggle for women over the past several hundred years to just get to the point of where they're at and get recognized for what they contribute to society. You know, for people that don't know their history, you know, women literally got the right to vote like barely 100 years ago. The Civil Rights Act from the 50s and 60s not only helped African Americans, but also helped pave the way for women equality. That was like 50 years ago. This is in your parents' lifetime. And the fact that we are now in 2024, like Charmaine says, that we are just now, Stewart, understand this, just now getting a woman and a woman of color to direct a Star Wars movie in 2024. And this is how the males in the franchise fandom act. If that is not a perfect example of women struggle in this world, trying to get to a certain place of equality, just to be equal, Stewart, not to even take over anything. This is how people react to the idea of a Star Wars movie being shaped by a female. Please, sack up. Where's this insecurity coming from that you don't think that you're worthy enough to still be good enough to create great content of your own, that you have to be fearful of other people coming along and taking opportunities from you? These are probably the same people that tell you, you know what, when you're struggling, Stuart, pick yourself up by the bootstraps, right? But they're probably also the same people now in that position of, oh man, look, women are coming up in the world. I'm struggling. Things are difficult for me. Well, you know what? Pick up your fucking bootstraps right now. Grab that sack and remind yourself you're a fucking man. But you don't have to do that in the sense of bringing other people down. And it just blows my mind. It blows my mind that we're here at this particular point in time. Like, why is that so difficult for people to just understand and be cool with? I just don't get it, Stuart. I truly just do not get it. And the idea of her saying something like, you know, I want men to feel uncomfortable. We should. Because you know who else felt uncomfortable? White people during the Civil Rights Act. You think it was easy to have those kind of conversations of allowing other people to have equality? No, those were uncomfortable conversations to have. But you know what the uncomfortable conversation allowed to happen? Civil rights, equality, progression in this particular world, in our society. And so the fact that it's like, we want to go back, we want to gatekeep, we don't want to give up power, we don't want to give up access. I think it's a damn shame. I think, and what's even funnier to me, Stuart, and I'm sorry I'm ranting right now, but it's the idea that, first off, this is a movie in a galaxy far, far away where you got fucking aliens talking to each other, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We've been taught life lesson after life lesson from the Jedi Order about the idea of not giving in to hate, not giving in to anger, right? These same people in the Star Wars fandom that want to swear up and down, I love Star Wars, I love the Star Wars franchise. You're not even taking the points away from what George Lucas established. You're not even taking away like the idea of what it means to be a fucking Jedi. You're coming across the Star Wars fandom as fucking Sith Lords, and you don't even know it. You don't even know it. It blows my mind. The idiocy, the insecurity. I highly recommend every man watch fucking Barbie. Because if Ryan Gosling can walk away with a very impactful understanding of himself and grow as a human being and as a man, and that lives in the same world with just as equally powerful women, God, I don't know what message people took away from watching Barbie, but holy shit, I felt almost enlightened as a man. I felt like I was even more powerful after watching that movie than what I was before. We have got to understand we are still worthy. We are still good enough as men, and we should not feel threatened by the idea of a woman simply wanting to write and direct a Star Wars movie. People, get over your fucking selves. It drives me crazy. I'm sorry. I just
no. That was great.
I had to.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Thank you. I got some closing lines on this, but it's not going to come anywhere near as good as your speech did right there. I'm just going to say that right now. But my closing lines are definitely kind of going back to. Oh, crap! Sorry, my stuff is falling over. So one thing I do want to kind of point out is with Rey, of course, being a main character who is a woman, and then we have us having a woman directing her in this next movie. I look at this as a big win. And I say that because a lot of times, and I'm not saying there are a ton of exceptions out there, and I'm not saying this is the case all the time, but you kind of notice that when it comes to the sequel trilogy, a lot of times it kind of feels like the big thing that both J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson were afraid to do is have any of Rey's like kind of mistakes that she makes on her journey have like any big consequences, right? And I think that just happens a lot when you have a male director directing a female character. And I don't agree with the Mary Sue term when it comes to Rey Skywalker. I do not agree she is a Mary Sue. She does not qualify on all those check marks. But one thing I will agree with people who complain about her character is that yes, her actions don't have as much consequences when she makes a mistake as when she gets things right. And again, I think that comes from when you have a guy directing a woman character. I think that guys kind of look at it as I'm directing a character who might be representing an entire, gender or things like that. And that's not how you should go about looking at the characters you direct, So I think that when you have a woman directing a woman character, you're way less likely to run into mistakes like that, So that's one of the main benefits I see. So I see like anyone who's like afraid of, her coming off as a Mary Sue, like we saw in some of like the earlier comments of people like saying like, will this fix her character? I can't say it's going to like, fix like any of the things that people already have a problem with her character, but it will mean that like she's going to be placed in a bigger role because she's going to be rebuilding the Jedi Order, right? And it also means she's likely going to make some mistakes around along the way. And with us having a female director doing this character, it's likely we're going to see those mistakes having a bigger amount of consequences, a bigger impact than we would have if we had J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson directing. Again, not knocking them as directors. I love both Last Jedi and Force Awakens, but I'm also going to kind of point out that was kind of a flaw in the entire trilogy. So that is a flaw we could see getting fixed now that we have a woman character or woman director.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I do think it's very important that she directs, and I think we will hopefully see Rey in a different light that only a woman can really shine on for another woman. And real quick to Blossom. What's up, Blossom? Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that with the $2. He says, geez, oh Susie, as a woman, I so agree with you. And just going back to Charmaine O'Boyd, and I'm probably completely butchering her name, and I apologize if she happens to catch this, but it is one of those things where it's like, again, going back in the idea that people want to circulate the one clip of her saying like, I live to make men uncomfortable. I think you also have to understand her own background, that she is Pakistani, that she comes from a culture where women are certainly held down. She even mentions in that interview earlier that what she does is to not only empower women, but to give women heroes, to give and create heroes for women. And so when I look at Rey Skywalker, I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity for her to certainly do that. And again, I think Star Wars fans, do we not remember Princess Leia, who was like as much as of a feminist in the Star Wars universe as you can get at that time, that really helped shape the galaxy and things like that, her being a senator, her having an impact, like these women have a place in Star Wars, and the fact that we don't want to give them that place where they rightfully deserve to be and share that with us, it honestly boggles my mind. And look, Dave Filoni is still there, guys, right? Like nobody's taking over Dave Filoni's job anytime soon. Don't worry. If anything, he's helping overshape sort of the creative direction, or at least the creative path here and there, so people can bounce ideas off of him. So I just don't think we should get this protective of a fandom that has established the idea that this universe is for everybody. And what's even sad is having this sort of positive outlook towards women in Star Wars. This video may not even break 100 views, Stewart. But
Nope.
you know what Star Wars Theory hit like 52,000 in like a couple of hours, where he's just bashing fucking females and just complaining about women directing or writing Star Wars. It's ass backwards to me. And it's just unfortunate that we have those messages getting out to the public, and instead of understanding our own history as a society and the struggle that women continue to have, to just be looked as equals, and we don't even want to give them a foot in the fucking door. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing as a male, honestly. It really embarrasses me.
I had to look this up just because I was so curious on what would be on his channel, and I was right. So I went to the Quarterings channel, and it says on the video talking about this, Disney just destroyed Star Wars forever.
People just gotta stop being so threatened. I
Mhm.
really do think that that's the case. Just stop being so threatened. But anyway, what the fuck do I know, right? But
Mhm.
anyway, look, guys, I'm sorry I went on a tangent. This stuff was just building inside of me, and I just felt like somebody had to say it because I just don't see enough of it out there. Um, you can disagree, you can unsubscribe if you want. I don't give a fuck. This is just who I am as a person. You can ride with me or not. That's cool. But those are my thoughts on Charmaine Obaid, you know, and again, Stewart, she's not even writing the story.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like I'm not going to say that I wouldn't sell out, if we had opportunities to put ads on our channel, totally. But if you try to say, "Oh, we need you to hate this because it's training to hate this," in order to, that's where I'm going to be like, "Okay, no, that's where I draw the line in selling out."
Look, I mean, if y'all want to clip this, post it, have people bash me for I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
People need to understand just how ridiculous this concept is that people are getting so butthurt about this. When half the stuff that people are pissed off about in regards to Disney and how they've created the content and they're upset, half of that stuff been written by men. So it's like, get over yourselves already, okay? But whatever.
Mhm.
Let's move on, bro. I'm ready to move on
That's the
from
thing.
this stuff.
Here's one last, very last thing I will say is that if Kathleen Kennedy wanted to make Star Wars super female oriented, she could have done that.
A
She
long
could
time
have
ago.
hired an all female writing cast. She could have hired an all female, or had only females directing the sequel trilogy. Had it been like, she could have written out all the legacy characters from the original trilogy. She didn't do that, because as much as she wants like women to have like a bigger impact on the Star Wars franchise, she also loves Star Wars. She wants to make sure that it's done right, and that she's not just hiring someone because they are a woman. Because they have a
Mhm.
woman directing this movie, I don't think it was, okay, who's the first woman of color we can look at? Okay, this one, you're directing it.
Right.
No, she didn't get the job because of that. She got it because she's clearly qualified, and she had a vision that clearly that's something that they want to see in the Disney movie. So, yeah.
I will say, at least for Charmaine, some people would probably say she's not qualified because I think she's really only worked on like documentaries and they're kind of giving her like this huge platform now, budget wise. But I think when you have a powerful writer like Steve Knight from Peaky Blinders, if anything, I'd be really interested to just, and again, they have been mentioning this is going to surprise us. This is going to be something vastly different. I would not mind seeing a different vision from a director for somebody like a Rey Skywalker compared to what we got with the sequel trilogy. So I am very much eager to see what they do. And just one last comment to men out there in the world. Okay, again, I really do think that we need to become just secure in ourselves as men. I don't know if it's like little dick syndrome that like people like really get people riled up that they just feel insecure with ourselves, but just understand we are still good enough. We are still very much equal. I mean, look, we got a fucking male president right now. There's nothing wrong with giving up some power and allowing people to just be equal with us. And the fact that we continue to get so butthurt at the idea of things like this, I think we're just becoming our own worst enemy, and we're just forgetting just who we are as people, and we don't need anybody else to boost us up besides ourselves. So I hope you guys find some sort of level of security somewhere with yourselves, because that's really where I feel like a lot of this is going right now. So if you need an outlet, if you need somebody to talk to, another man to talk to about some of your interpersonal feelings, you can email me anytime. We'll talk, brother, for sure. Uplift you if I need to. But just you don't need to feel good about yourself at the expense of putting other people down.
Mhm.
That's what I'll end it at. But Stuart, let's get on with the next topic. This one, man, Todd McFarlane is back in the news again, talking about his Spawn movie. This man has been wanting to get this movie off the ground for years now, and it possibly could be happening as he has finally decided to give up some power in regards to originally, if you remember, Stewart, Todd McFarlane was like, I want to direct this movie. I want to write this movie. And studios were like, whoa, as a first-time writer and director, I don't know if I feel comfortable or safe with that. And it took Todd McFarlane a couple of years to embrace that idea, but he eventually did. And he teamed up, if you ask me, with a powerhouse production company in Blumhouse that really knows how to make low budget sort of thriller horror films, if you will, and really have a fantastic showing at the box office. I think Jason Blum just gets it. And now that Todd McFarlane is working with Blumhouse, it looks like we might be able to expect an official script rather soon. Blumhouse, I believe, has mentioned the idea that he would like to see this movie drop in 2025. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but Todd McFarlane at least expects a final script this year, Stuart. So let's go ahead and dive into this, man. This comes to us from comicbook.com. It says Todd McFarlane expects Spawn movie script soon. This is an exclusive interview with him, as you can see right there with Chris Killian. He says Jason is one of the better ones at getting things done, is what McFarlane tells comicbook.com about the prolific producer behind horror hits Halloween, Paranormal Activity, Insidious, Megan, and Five Nights at Freddy's. They tell me I get to read the script this month. The email is going to be out this week to remind them that they promised me that. So even Todd McFarlane is staying on that ass, Stuart. He's like, look, I know you guys promised this, but I'm going to email you later. I'm going to remind you, you're supposed to give me the script. It says McFarlane's script goes back to 2013. He envisioned as a smaller budget R-rated supernatural thriller, was once aiming for a 2014 production start. Since setting up at Blumhouse, Spawn underwent a script polish by another writer and director. In 2021, Blumhouse hired Broken City writer Brian Tucker to script the new live action version. And it says in 2022, they brought on a trio of writers to pen a new script. So it's, again, going through script evolutions. They had Scott Silver from DC's Joker, Malcolm Spellman from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Matt Mixon from Yesterday Was Everything. Also on board to reboot is veteran Walking Dead special effects makeup guru Greg Nicatori, who has designed a gritty, down and dirty version of the character that aligns with McFarlane's serious and sophisticated spin on Spawn. McFarlane says, something's got to happen. Something's gonna happen. I just know myself, something's gonna happen, because if I can't figure it out inside of the Hollywood system, I'm figuring it out independently. I just know myself, but hopefully we can figure out a deal that keeps all the parties that have been involved over the years involved. Stewart, I gotta say, that last line by him of like, look, this movie is getting done regardless. I would just say, Todd, just slow down, bro. Just pump the brakes, okay? Like, I know how eager you are to get this movie out and stuff, but I personally really would like a bigger production company to have control over this Spawn product. Something like Blumhouse. I'm not asking this movie to go to like Disney or Paramount or anything like that, but give him the opportunity. I mean, this man is already thinking about the future of the studio failing him, and he's got to go and make this movie independently. Like, slow down, Todd. So I do hope that I want to see this movie. Jamie Foxx is attached. Jeremy Renner, I think, is attached too. I do want to see this movie, Stuart. So I definitely hope it happens. What do you think about some of the things Todd McFarlane had to say, though?
Yeah, it sounds like he's really passionate about it. I definitely get where you're coming from with the whole like slow down, all right, let's just one step at a time. But I do think at this point now, it's he's had time to work on the script, and now that he's no longer directing it, I do think that them having a more professional director take an approach to it with a comic booky like script, a comic book writer working on the script, I do think it's going to be a pretty fun project at the very least. And I don't mind the fact that it's like, Blumhouse, because, they don't give their movies the biggest budget, but they usually give them the exact budget that they need. And I think that right now with a lot of comic book movies, I think one of the issues and I brought this up before, is that I think they just have too much money. I don't think you need as much money as they produce for like half of the Marvel movies. some exceptions, obviously, but for the most part, I don't think they need the budget that they're often given. So I am kind of looking forward to going back to a kind of smaller budget comic book movie, kind of like with this, and of course with the upcoming Hellboy movie as well. And I also, love who they got for the special effects because if you watch The Walking Dead, if you watch any of the dude's horror movies that he's done in the past, you know that he really knows how to do gore and all that kind of fun jazz. So overall, yeah, I'd say mostly excited, mostly optimistic. As for a 2025 release date, I think it's very possible, but it means that this script has to be I don't want to say perfect because no first draft is ever going to be perfect, but it's definitely got to be a script that knows exactly the direction it's trying to go. So that way, I feel like as long as you know what direction you're taking your movie in, the rewrite should be a lot easier and a lot faster to do.
Yeah, I think when I think about this movie, I feel like if they are aiming for 2025, you're probably aiming for like later half, fall during that October, November release date sort of thing, really in line with just that spooky season, if you will. So I think with this being January of 2024, if they're really able to nail down the script with here, within this month, and Todd is happy with it, and this being a lower budget film too, not really heavy dependent on special effects, I do think that they have a shot here of allowing it to make the 2025 sort of release date. I am glad that you mentioned the costume designer in here because I do think that's going to go certainly a really long way in establishing a great look for Spawn. And I think really attracting people just visually to what he might look like to actually wanting to go see this movie. But I am feeling kind of optimistic. I would like to see another Spawn movie. I think if there's any opportunity to do it now, this is it. I mean, clearly he's been trying to do this for the past like 10 years. So look, I can understand his wanting to speed up this process sort of thing, but I think this might be the exact pacing that this movie certainly needs in order to make sure that you're getting it right, especially after you've had so many rewrites of the script with some really some really good writers certainly coming on board. So we'll see who they have for the director. I don't think they've mentioned the director as of yet. I don't know why there was a part of me, Stuart, that was like, man, I would love to see James Wan pick this up with just some of his horror background, but it might get a little bit too campy with James Wan just after seeing things like Megan and just what he's been doing with the Aquaman movies. Even though again, Aquaman's not a horror, supernatural thriller or anything like that, he clearly embraces a dark side to him. I mean, I think he did the first Conjuring movie, which I was certainly a big fan of. But I do think who the director they get is going to be just as important as the writer to bring this to life. But I do feel optimistic, and hopefully we do see this movie in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Looks like Todd McFarlane might get the final script here this month. Are you eager for a Spawn movie? Do you think it's about time? What would you like to see from this character in this film? Let us know your thoughts in the comment box below. Let's move on to our next topic, Stuart. We're gonna transition to television in this one, at least, as Game of Thrones is back in the news. We've been getting some spin-offs from Game of Thrones as we wind up getting the House of the Dragon. I do believe that there might be some of the news that we've heard over the years is that there's several sort of different spin-offs in development. Some of them will eventually get the opportunity to be greenlit. Not everything will certainly make it to the big screen, but I do believe we could probably expect maybe one more live action spinoff. But that does not mean that Game of Thrones and those behind the scenes are done developing concepts and future spinoffs, because this week's story, they went ahead and announced a trove of new things that we could possibly be looking forward to, and not necessarily just live action, but Game of Thrones may be tackling the animated side of things, which I think would be pretty fascinating. So let's go ahead and dive into this article. This one comes to us from comingsoon.net. When it comes to Game of Thrones, it says 3 Game of Thrones animated series being developed by HBO and George R.R. Martin. So Stuart, instead of writing and finishing his freaking novel that people have been asking for years, this man continues to help HBO develop content. Let's go ahead and bring this up and talk about it a little bit. It says George R.R. Martin has announced that 3 animated series set in the world of a song in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire are being developed. Martin revealed the information on his website, noting that they haven't been greenlit yet. 3 animated series are in the works between himself and HBO. One of them is Nine Voyages, a show that focuses on the voyages of Corliss Valerian. I completely destroyed that. That was previously intended to be made as a live action series. And I think we highlighted that before in some of the spin-offs, that Nine Voyages was kind of gaining some traction, but it seems as though they've gone from live action idea to now it being possibly animated. He says, as it happens, HBO and I have our own animated projects set in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. None of them have been greenlit yet, but I think we're getting close to taking the next step with a couple of them. When this last round of development started a few years back, we had 4 ideas for animated shows with some great talents attached. Writer rooms and summits, outline and scripts followed in due course, but alas, 2 of the original projects were subsequently shelved. Work on the other two animated projects continues apace, however, and meanwhile, we have moved Nine Voyages, our series about the legendary voyages of the sea snake, over from live action to animation, a move I fully support. Budgetary constraints would likely have made a live action version prohibitively expensive, with half the show taking place at sea and the necessity of creating a different port each week, from Driftmark to Lies to the Basilisk Isles. Well, on and on and on. There's a whole world out there, and we have a lot better chance of showing it all with animation. So we now have 3 animated projects underway. So I do think that it is important here to emphasize again that they're being developed. This sounds very much like early development stages. So not greenlit yet. Some of these may not even see the light of day, but it seems as though if there's any of the projects that have made their way very far along, it seems like nine voyages that have clearly been talked about and outlined in live action, but now possibly becoming animated. Let me throw this to you, Stewart. How do you feel about the route of Game of Thrones going animated and the number of sort of ideas that they are sort of brainstorming over? What do you think about this news?
I love it. I think the idea of bringing the world to an animated series opens up the possibility of more that you could bring from the books. For like, I think like the biggest thing is that, you know, there's a lot you can do when you have a big budget TV show that's live action, but even that has its own limitations. I think like, you know, the problem is like the mind has a much bigger budget than like what you can actually pull off with special effects and practical effects. But when it comes to animation, essentially the only limit is your imagination in terms of what you can pull off. So I think animated Game of Thrones, an animated Game of Thrones series, if it's given the proper budget and plenty of time, I think that has the most potential to really feel like you're like you know, reading straight from the pages onto the screen of Game of Thrones, depending on which you know, areas of the lore they decide to cover. I just think it offers the most flexibility and the most the most like kind of creative vision control, I guess you could say, like visionary control that you could get you know, in terms of trying to visualize, you know, what kind of story you want to tell. Yeah, I think it's great. And, you know, it's not like they're replacing the live action shows too, because we still have several other spin-off shows in development. Plus we got the current one, House of Dragons, which I am just, you know, we've only gotten 1 season of, but I absolutely love so far and look forward to seeing more from. And then, you know, there's always the fact that, you know, Game of Thrones is, you know, always, you know, aimed towards adults. And I always, you know, this is getting a lot better nowadays, but there's always been like this idea where when it comes to animation for adults, it's always kind of gone under the category as comedy, unless it's anime. Anime's been on top of this since the 90s, obviously. But when it comes to American animation, I've always just been tired of the fact that if it's an adult animated series, it usually means it's a comedy. There's not really much variety when it comes to it. That's not to say that all adult animation that's comedy is bad. I love a majority of these not a majority, but I love a good chunk of these shows. But that being said, variety is always good. Much like how in kids cartoons you can have both funny and serious shows, I want to see that with adult animation, and I think Game of Thrones is the perfect show to do that. The only thing that would make this news any better is if they announced that this was all going to be illustrated by the guy that did Heavy Metal, because
Hey.
I would love to see Game of Thrones with
Pretty
a
badass.
heavy metal art style. Like, oh my god, that'd be a dream come true.
Yeah, that would be pretty badass, honestly, if you ask me. But yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there. If anything, I like the idea of this being explored in an animated realm a little bit. I think he makes perfect sense when he says, "Look, it's a budgetary. There's just so much work set piece wise that we'd have to do. You know, they're already forking over so much money already for just the live action House of the Dragon stuff as it is. That yeah, maybe if you can save some money elsewhere, but still put together great content." I love the idea of adult sort of animation for something like Game of Thrones to give us a really serious plot. If anything, it kind of reminds me of like that Witcher animated movie that we wind up getting from Netflix a couple of years back that focused on Gerald's the person that his mentor and things like that. Also, I really enjoyed it. Had its humor, but it was a very sort of serious story with some great characters and great violence and great action, and something like that I definitely would like to see more of. So if Game of Thrones could tap into something like that, I'll certainly be here for it. Maybe we get to see some familiar faces in animated. Maybe if we do get familiar faces in the 9 voyages, maybe we can bring back some actors to do their voice acting work also in other opportunities. So keep bringing it on. I think people want more Game of Thrones, and I easily expect at least another live action and maybe at least 1 or 2 more animated stuff. So we'll see what comes out of this. But guys, let us know your thoughts. 3 Game of Thrones animated series are in the works behind the scenes. Again, not officially greenlit. Some of these may not get the opportunity to see the time of day, but they are constantly brainstorming. And I think if you're a Game of Thrones fans, that should certainly make you very happy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But yeah, let us know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. All right, and I think we got one more topic, y'all. One more topic we're gonna be breaking down for you guys today. And we're gonna go back to movies here. And Stewart, look, man, I gotta tell you, How to Train Your Dragon is back in the news. And I think when we first announced this movie happening, Stewart, the idea that, hey, we're going to make a live action How to Train Your Dragon, there's a part of me that rolled my eyes when they announced this, because it's one of those things where we've seen Disney do this already, where it's like, look, we've got these classics, but now we want to make them live action. It's one of those things where it's like I get the idea of wanting to reboot franchises after so many years, but How to Train Your Dragon was like 10 years ago, man. Like, people still remember those movies. We had a whole trilogy that are in just one generation's time. Why are we even going to make a live action movie? And I immediately put this down of the sense of like, I'm not really excited for this whatsoever. But Stuart, I have a confession to make. I haven't finished this movie yet, but I started watching Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. And there's a scene in there where one of the characters is riding this like dragon, griffin, sort of type falcon creature. I don't know what it was, but the special effects and seeing it in live action looks so good. So much better. Like, let's not even imagine something like Avatar. I could easily look at Avatar, but this is like a live action person riding a CGI, like just that. And if you go back to like just thinking of Game of Thrones, it just looks so beautiful. But for some reason, when I watched Rebel Moon and seeing Zack Snyder's version of it, I was like, if this is like How to Train Your Dragon, I might be down with this. Like, I think they could really do something innovative and tell a really great story with amazing visuals. And then this week in the news, Stuart, we get the reports that's right, ladies and gentlemen, Gerard Butler is coming back to reprise his role as Hiccup's father in live action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon. I was like, yes, please. Gerard Butler just has this unique voice that just draws me in. And I think he's got the presence. I think, clearly his father and How to Train Your Dragon is much bigger and much wider than Gerard is, but I do think that he's one of those people that definitely has a presence on screen. That I think if you were to put Gerard Butler in like Viking outfit, he would be just as intimidating as all hell, and would definitely be worthy of being the leader of this tribe. And so the fact that you're going to get him and his voice now represented in this movie, I think is a win. This is an exclusive. It says Universal Pictures live action adaptation of DreamWorks animation franchise is bringing back a familiar face. As sources tell Deadline that Gerard Butler, who voiced Hiccup's father, Stoic, in the original movies, will reprise his role. Mason Thames and Nico Parker are set to star as Hiccup and Astrid, and they have Dean DeBlouse directing, writing, and producing. The film is set to bow June 13th of next year, 2025. It says the new pick will draw audiences deep into the DWA's imaginative lore, working from a single narrative tapestry. The adventures of Hiccup and Toothless have captivated fans across 3 films that have grossed over $1.6 billion combined. That's nothing to sneeze at, man. It does say here that while the studio went with the new faces for Hiccup and Astrid, since the actors that had previously voiced the characters are now adults, the idea of having Butler return as Stoic, the strong-willed Viking chief who was also a single father trying to raise his son, was too good to pass up. Known for his action-heavy roles like Olympus Has Fallen franchise and 300, Butler's role in How to Train Your Dragon was a fan favorite, and his casting allows the studio to pay a proper tribute to the original cast. And I think just having his name too attached to it, Stewart, will also attract the eyes of other actors and other big names, maybe wanting to kind of come on board the project too. So I honestly find this as a huge win. What about you, Stewart? How are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I mostly agree. I got to be honest. When I saw that this was one of the things we were covering, I actually didn't know that Gerard Butler voiced him in the movie. So I didn't realize they were bringing him to play him in live action. So yeah, I think that he definitely has a good Viking look to him. I think that once you put him in like all the gear, he's going to look absolutely like great. And of course, we know for a fact he's going to have the voice down, and I think that's like one of the most important aspects of Stoic's character. I freaking love his voice. I mean, all the voices, honestly. The voice acting in that movie is just great. So yeah, mostly positive vibes. I do hope though, not saying that every like I want every Viking to look like this, but I'm just thinking if you're gonna make a movie about Vikings, at least give us a couple of heavy set actors in there. Like I would love to see the Mountain from Game of Thrones literally throwing the world's
Ooh.
strongest man to be like one of the characters. Actually, he would be perfect for the villain if they adapt it movie to movie and they have the villain like very similar to how he was in the second movie. I think he'd be perfect as that. But yeah, basically, I just hope that we have a good mixture of like different body types, because I feel like when you're doing a movie about Vikings, that's a good opportunity to really bring in the heavyset actors and like kind of show that, hey, just because we're a little heavy in the gut, that doesn't mean we're not equally as badass as your typical Hollywood celebrities that have like kind of your typical like the typical Chris Hemsworth bodies, in other words, show that, hey, heavyset can still be just as badass, especially when going to battle. So I just hope for variety is all I'm saying. But yeah, I think him reprising his role as Stoic is going to be cool. And I think when we first talked about this live action How to Train Your Dragon movie, I think I was a bit more optimistic about the idea than you, because I do agree it is a bit soon because the movie trilogy just ended 10 years ago. But that all being said, I'm still kind of excited. I'm excited to see how this looks live action. I do think that of all like animated movies out there, this is one of the easier ones, one of the ones that would adapt to live action a lot better than say a movie like Toy Story, which or Finding Nemo, where it's like you take movies that were clearly made for animation and you try to put those into live action, it just doesn't work as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. My My thoughts on this movie have definitely changed since it was certainly announced. I think the idea that they are bringing back the same person that literally did the original trilogy in animated, but now he's doing it in live action, I think that carries a lot of weight in regards to just its continuity of it feeling similar to what we remember, but just in a different light now. So I do think it's got some things really working for it. And I think where we're at in technology, I think everybody's gonna want a dragon of their own. I wanted a dragon of my own after watching the trilogy, the animated trilogy, and I think this is really gonna make everybody want one for themselves. So I'm eager for it. I'm definitely my thoughts on it are certainly turning around. And we'll see what the final product is like. But if we have any other further news for you guys about this film, we'll definitely continue to keep you posted. But would be our second announcement for actors when it comes to being cast for this movie. So yeah, let us know your guys' thoughts. And you're right, Stuart. I think look, if people have had that Viking body and that Viking shape for years, this is your opportunity, boy. This is an opportunity to get on the big screen. So yeah, let's see how this movie does. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it now.
I mean, if you need a heavy set guy who you know is in really good shape, Nick Frost. If you've seen him in Into the Badlands, you know that dude.
Yeah.
He may be big, but he's pretty athletic.
Yeah, I'm curious. I will be curious to see who else they wind up casting for a lot of these roles, especially like Hiccup's friends and things like that. Maybe some of the other Viking characters that we've seen in the movie will get a little bit of a presence too. So definitely, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the idea of Gerard Butler coming back as Stoic, but this time live action.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if he'd be too old for this role if they could still pull off making him look like he's a kid. But Finn Wolfhard, I think, would make a really good Hiccup.
Finn, I think
from Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, he probably would. Honestly, I'm curious how old is he now?
I don't know. Because I think he's an adult now, if I'm not mistaken.
He's 21. He's 21.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he looks 21 though. I think he could still get away with being a kid though.
Yeah, I think so. And then that's perfect because he's an adult in the second movie. So if you want to age him up, just tell him to stop shaving. He's good to go.
I think they already have their Hiccup though. I think they've already cast their Hiccup.
Oh, they did. Okay.
I believe they have. Yeah, but I would be curious if he was part of the casting list at all. All right, let's see here. And I think other than that, guys, I think that will do it for all of our main topics today, guys. So thank you so much for certainly joining us today. But we do have your live viewer questions to get into. So let's go ahead and dive in, y'all.
Now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions. And again, don't know why, but like when we played that, I just for some reason felt the need to mouth along to it. And it's not.
Do you miss it, Stuart? Do you miss it?
Nah, I don't miss it.
I if anything, I gotta maybe add some music. You had mentioned maybe adding some music behind it, so maybe I'll try and do that.
Yeah, like something superhero like.
Okay. Yeah. Some ideas. All right. So if you ever want to go ahead and submit a live viewer question, we'll post the questionnaire post either on Friday or Saturday for you guys. But you just go over to our YouTube page, click on that community tab, and we have our live viewer question post right there for you guys. And we've got 8 questions for us today. And hopefully we can get through all of them. Let me set it up for newest first. Let's go ahead and tackle this. Jessica Friedman, always coming through with some questions. Why do you think Max chose to give Harley Quinn a 5th season instead of Young Justice? And would you like to see another Orange Ranger one day? Yeah, I would love seeing another Orange Ranger one day. We'll see what the color scheme is for Jonathan Entwistle's movie. I don't expect an Orange Ranger in our reboot immediately, but if we still get kids programming, maybe any animated stuff, yeah, give me another Orange Ranger because I enjoyed her presence in Dino Fury, or I should say Cosmic Fury. What about you, Stewart? The idea of Max giving Harley Quinn a 5th season instead of Young Justice, do you think that's out of the question, or do you think there's still a possibility that we get some Young Justice stuff?
I think James Gunn favored Harley Quinn because they gave him a small cameo. No, I'm kidding. Although maybe that played a part into it. No, I think I I can't say for sure, but I think there's a small possibility we will get our answers next year during because we have a trilogy of animated movies called Crisis on Infinite Earths. And
Mhm.
even though this has not been confirmed, I'm just speculating that this will probably cross over into other animated universes. So I am hoping that we get like an answer as to whether or not Young Justice season 5 is happening during that trilogy, because I think if you're going to do a crossover animated, if you're going to cross over animated universes, you got to include some of the more popular ones like Young Justice and of course the DC animated universe from back in the day. So hopefully we get our answers there. Fingers are crossed.
Yeah, fingers are crossed for sure. Peg C, hey Adam and company, hope you're all doing well. Couple of questions. What if Zach, Jason, and Trini returned for a few episodes or a season, but got to wear the three Die Ranger suits? I think that would have been pretty cool. Unfortunately, that never got the opportunity to happen, but I think that would have been pretty neat. I personally am a big fan of the route that the comic books went with them and allowing them to eventually continue to be Power Rangers, but more or less for the cosmos and for space as the Omega Rangers. But cameos would have been great at the time, but just unfortunately, we never got the opportunity to get that. What are your thoughts on Illumination pitching a Nintendo cinematic universe? Here's an article. Okay, let's see what this article. This was back in December 21st. Oops, hold on, my bad. Super Smash Bros. Movie reportedly being pitched by Illumination. According to a report from reliable leaker Daniel Rickman, I don't know how reliable he is. Maybe he is. Illumination is preparing a pitch for a shared cinematic universe that will culminate in a Super Smash Bros. Movie. The movie will be built up by various spin-off films in a similar manner of Avengers. You think that's where they're leading to, Stuart?
So it's a possibility. I don't know if we really need build up for a Super Smash Brothers universe or for a Super Smash Brothers movie. I think honestly, if they wanted to do a movie like that, they could honestly they could just make it as a standalone movie, include Nintendo characters, but they don't necessarily need to make a movie for every single one of them. But yeah, it's Illumination. They have a lot of money. They know what the kids want. Let me put it that way. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure kids will love it. It's just I don't know if it's something that I myself am going to be excited for. Looking forward to every new Nintendo movie that comes out. I don't see myself like being the main target audience for this.
Like if you had to build a Smash Brothers universe, like if you had to build up to a Smash Brothers world, how many spin-offs would you create to get to that movie, right? Like we had an Iron Man movie, we had two Iron Man movies, we had a Hulk movie, we had a Captain America movie, and then I think we got our Avengers. Is that right?
Yeah.
4 to 5 movies before Avengers. So we got Super Mario out of the way. We know that they're making a live action Zelda movie. What else would you add to that?
To me, the four most important characters in Smash Brothers, because they're always on the they're in every trailer. They were the four original to really kick off the original game for the Nintendo 64, and I think those are the ones you need to get right. You need to get right. So we technically had two of them first, which is Donkey Kong and Mario. The next one being Link. I'm not sure if I would want it to be connected to the Netflix Zelda show, or if I'd want to do my own animated. I would want to go for my own original animated Zelda movie that kind of fits more in the tone with the Super Smash Brothers, movies. And then finally, I would do a Pokemon movie. Again, not like Detective Pikachu. Again, a Pokemon movie that fits more in line with the Smash Brothers universe, an animated one, not connected to the world of Detective Pikachu. That's how I would personally approach it. I think those are the four that you need to set up if you're doing a Smash Brothers movie, if you want to have a setup universe, pretty much.
Was Star Fox in the original one?
He was. He just he wasn't in like any of the main or he was in some of the advertisements, but when I think of the core of Smash Brothers, it's like my version of the Trinity, like the DC Trinity. Like those four are like what the Trinity are for DC. Those four are for Super Smash Brothers.
Um, I definitely, I so badly want a Star Fox movie. That's the only reason why I ask. As I think a Star Fox movie would be pretty badass,
That
live
would be
action
pretty cool.
or animated. But look, I think Nintendo has a gold mine on their hands. I think Illumination knows this. I think as long as they focus on the individual movies first before bringing these characters together, I think they could make some magic with this as far as like another billion-dollar film, because I think people are hungry for Nintendo characters on the big screen in any capacity at this point. So do I think that they're going to build up to one? I do think we're going to get there, Stuart. I just think this is just the type of content that we've been creating for such a long time now, is a build up to a cinematic. Everybody needs a cinematic universe at some point in time. So I do think that we'll eventually get one. Whether or not we need one, that's another topic. But I think we'll have fun with it though. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? Did you guys see the new Sentai that's coming? If you did, what are your expectations for it? Was it Boomger or some shit like that?
Mhm.
I've seen just the suits. I have not seen anything else outside of that, Stuart. Have you?
Nope, just the suits. And the vibes I get from it kind of reminds me of the Sentai version of Power Rangers Turbo. Like it kind of seems like this might be going for a slightly younger audience, and it might be a show that like kind of like that. At least I think just this is based on when I watched Go Kaiger when they had the one Turbo Ranger make a cameo. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like another team with the purpose of teaching car safety tips to children. That's the vibe I get from this.
I get you. I get you. Yeah, for some reason, when I saw the poster, I definitely got like Speed Racer vibes for some reason, like a classic Japanese story and elements, especially with the design of the car itself. So yeah, I think it might be a little bit of a combination of like a Speed Racer meets Car Ranger type of thing. I hope it's not as comedic and over the top as Car Ranger was, but maybe we're in line for something fun here. I just haven't I didn't keep up with King Oger. I didn't watch that season. I fell off mid Don Brothers, which is a season I was really enjoying. I just have not been connected to the Super Sentai world as much to know all the details to fully enjoy it. But if you guys have, I definitely would love to know your thoughts on what you think about the new Sentai. Blossom says, I know I probably asked you this, but why do Kid Rangers get so much hate? I'm asking because I'm thinking of changing my Tokuger's ages. Um, I think, well, okay, one, I think maybe some people are like, I roll my eyes when it's a Kid Ranger and then he morphs and he's an adult. You know,
Yeah, like Justin.
that don't make no sense to me. And again, I think the only other reason me as a growing up watching Turbo was mad about the idea of a Kid Ranger was because it wasn't me. Because like I was a kid, but I wasn't a ranger, so I was really pissed off that this fucking kid got to be a ranger and I couldn't. Um, and maybe as we get older, we just lack imagination these days. Which, funny enough, you say that is because that was definitely one of the themes of Tokuger, right? Was like the idea that the kids can see this imaginary world of the shadow line and the rainbow line where everything was really invisible to kind of adults sort of thing. And so maybe it's just the idea that we get older, we get a little bit more cynical, and we lose our imaginative powers to embrace really cool things like kids being rangers or something like that. So it's a little bit of both, maybe, if you ask me.
I think it comes down to early Saban. He knew how to make characters that kids could look up to, didn't know how to make characters for kids to relate to. And I think that's what they tried with Justin. They tried to get a relatable character. It failed. Power Rangers works best when it's like, or Saban Power Rangers works best when it's characters that kids can look up to.
I get you. Yeah, that might be, I think you're right there too. Doomsday says, since Wes is obviously not the leader of Time Force because Jen already is, and if he's not even second in command, then what rank do you think he is? Because he's almost always initiating the morph like a Red Ranger should, but he's not the leader or second in command. I was wondering what you think because I was always getting confused. Was there anybody else in second in command? I always looked as Wes as second in command.
Yeah, I mean, I look at like it almost is like kind of a
A
co-leadership.
co-leadership? Yeah.
Like I think Jen like usually kind of takes command when they're in battle, but I think because it's his timeline, he knows the world better. He tends to come up with a lot of the plans, and he tends to come up with a lot of the plans before battle, that kind of a thing. So to me, like I would call him a second in command at the very least, and if not,
At the
he's
very
kind of the
least.
co-captain.
Yeah, I would say at the very least he's second in command because when I think of Jen, I think of her as the original leader of that team, and they get thrusted into a different time period. And I still refer to her as the leader of the team. But when you clearly have somebody that's familiar and relatable to the time period that you're in, I can understand why Wes winds up taking a bigger role and really becoming the forefront sort of thing. So yeah, I would agree with you. I look at Wes and Jen on equal platforms, if not him just coming in as second at the end of the day. Throughout Megaforce and Super Megaforce, which of the 6 Rangers do you think had the most development? Probably Jake and Gia to me.
Jake was Jake the nerd, or
He was like the soccer. He wasn't the jock guy, but he was like the
oh, the
nerdy
soccer
sporty
one.
guy. Yeah, yeah. He was the one that had the crush on Gia.
Okay, got it. I what was the nerd's name again? Noah?
Noah.
Noah. Okay. I kind of feel like Noah and Gio were the ones that kind of had the most development out of the 6.
Yeah, I think clearly Gia for us both had some big development moments. So yeah, for sure. Do you think it was a missed opportunity to bring back Blake Foster's Justin in the Super Megaforce finale? I personally feel like it would have been great to have him back as a way for the fans to see how he's been ever since the In Space team up in 1998. So I'm assuming he's mentioning maybe not bringing him back for this legendary fail.
I think what he's getting at is how like it makes no sense for both Turbo and In Space to be there. I think what they
Oh,
should have
gotcha.
done is they should have had like a I mean, I know it would have only been there for the fans, so maybe make this only like a shot in the extended edition, but maybe have it be that when the Turbo Rangers appear, we see them without their helmets just to show that Justin's there, but he started like his own new team of Turbo Rangers because we know that he
Mm.
still had the turbo powers after the events. So I think it'd just be an easier way to say that, oh, he just started his own team off screen, but I get why they wouldn't, because of course, kids watching Megaforce probably don't know what a turbo is, so they would just be confused on why they're explaining something they know nothing about. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Marcelino, he does have a couple questions. He did give us a fair warning beforehand.
Mhm.
What were your thoughts on Supercore? And if you don't know what it is, Supercore was the ship name for Kara and Lena. Um, I would say this visually. I think they look hot together. Personally, I think Kara and Lena really work great on screen together. But I really love the idea of them being enemies, boy. I mean, Lena, the actress that played Lena, just had a great look to her. She just had this look of like this crazy ex-girlfriend that you did not want to piss off because she would just never leave you alone. Like she would just be relentless in wanting to get back at you forever. And I really would have loved to have seen how that would have shaped up for Kara as one of her main villains. Again, the fact that they are friends and they connected, I wouldn't have minded the shipping, but man, I really think the idea of Lena having been a villain for somebody like Kara. I wish that they would have pulled that trigger a lot longer than what they did, unfortunately. And in fact, Lena probably would have been, if I had my way, Lena would have been my main villain for the season finale,
Mhm.
or just the final season in general. But what about you, Stuart?
For me, let me first say that yes, I agree they would look extremely good together on screen. And I do think that the two actresses had great chemistry with each other, and I think they worked very
Yeah,
well. But I also kind of get why they didn't, because I do think that they really established like early on that Kara is not into girls. They don't really
right.
necessarily
With
establish that
Lena.
with Lena.
Mhm.
But I'll say this. Okay, I'm assuming you still to this day have not seen the finale, right?
That is my 2024 resolution, bro.
Watch the Supergirl series finale. Anyways, I think this is where like the ships kind of come from, is that there's almost this moment between the two of them where it almost feels like the writers of the show themselves kind of admitting, yeah, if we had written things a little differently from the beginning, they could have actually worked really well as a couple, but also like making it very clear that that is not the case currently. Like the two of them are not in a relationship together, but that if they had written things a little differently, yes, that is definitely something that could have happened and could have actually worked really well. So for me personally, I don't really mind either way. That's a long way for me to just say that I'm kind of neutral about the decision. Because yeah, if they were in a relationship, I think you got the right actors for it. Because again, great on-screen chemistry between the two of them. And I get what people are trying to say with or specifically Marcelino is saying about William. I do think William was very much a forced character. It was like that. It felt like the writers really wanted Kara and what's his face? The
Jimmy?
No,
No.
not Jimmy. The guy from season 2, the other one with superpowers. Not He wasn't Kryptonian. He was
Oh,
from the neighboring planet of Krypton.
Monel? Was it
Monel,
Monel?
yeah, played by her like actual husband. It seemed like that's what the writers really wanted, but you know, the actor playing Monel had like other things that he was doing, so he couldn't stick around. So personally, I think that they should have just, you know, stuck with that, but I get why they couldn't.
Yeah, I didn't really care for William so much. I mean, worthy sacrifice. Oh, he died, right? Worthy sacrifice,
Did
I
he?
believe. I believe he
Oh, I
died.
don't remember.
Towards the finale, I think. Lex and them wind up breaking in, and he was supposed to watch over the daughter or the little girl or something like that. And they came in. I think they murdered him. I don't remember if they brought him back to life or not, but I think they killed William off in that season.
Yeah.
Um, Number two, producer of the John Wick films, Erica Lee, says she hopes for a number of spin-offs to come out of the franchise. These including a Sophia spin-off, an Akira and Kane spin-off, and a Bowery King spin-off. Which do you want to see the most? Who was Sophia? Was that? Yes, I want to see Sophia, and that was Holly Berry's character. I want to
Oh,
learn
that's right.
I want to learn more about her daughter, what happened in that regards, to her having the old John Wick a debt, if you will. Plus the two dogs were just badass in general, and Holly Berry hella impressed me in just her action sequences. So I would be okay with like a one-off, even if it's like a series on Peacock, similar to what they did with Continental, or an actual spin-off movie. I would be okay with that. I just don't know how many Halle Berry Sophia spin-off movies we need. Like, I would say go into it with just the mindset of a one-off and not a trilogy of films, but she would probably be at the top of my list.
Was Kira and Kane, was that the father and daughter from the second movie?
Uh
Or not second, sorry, I meant to say fourth movie from the final chapter.
I still have not seen this last John Wick movie. So I don't even know who those characters. Oh, I think that's yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. The guy that Don was it Donnie Yen played and his
Yeah.
daughter. So yeah, and Bowery King. I don't really need one. But how about you, Stuart? If you had the opportunity to see that John Wick movie, Akira and Kane, would you like a spinoff of them?
Yeah, I think that would be my number. Well, I think it is the one we are for sure going to get, just based on the ending of chapter 4. So, and just because I think that, yeah, I thought they were both really freaking awesome characters. So I can't wait to see more of them expanded on. Oh, cool. So yeah, Kane was the blind guy, while Akira was the daughter of a friend of. Yeah, yes. Okay, yes. Then those two I would love to see getting a spinoff because they were freaking awesome in John Wick chapter 4.
Okay, I mean, I'm gonna have to check it out, man. I have to check it out. For some reason, you know, the wrapping up of stories and finales, I'm like, no, don't go away. And I fucking never watch them. I'm like, I get through everything, but like the last episode of the last movie, I'm like, no, I haven't seen them yet. I haven't watched them yet.
You're gonna love John Wick Chapter 4. The only thing, my only nitpick, and this is a nitpick, is that oh my gosh, John Wick gets up from like the most impossible injuries. Like it's ridiculous in the trilogy as like the first 3 movies for sure, but oh my gosh, they go so over the top. Like he just is taking abuse after abuse, and he is somehow getting right back up on his feet. And I'm just like, no, you are dead, sir. You are not surviving that.
I mean, when Homeboy literally falls off the building at the end of John Wick 3 to escape
Yes.
them, and he fall like boom, 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 all the way down. I'm like, how is he alive? How is he
Exactly.
alive?
So imagine that ending of 3, which I forgave because it was just the ending. It's that, but all of chapter 4.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Like
At
this
least I'll
dude has
prepare
no
myself.
bones or something.
I'll have to prepare myself for sure. And then
uh,
lastly, he asks, okay, this is the long one. He says, you guys have said that you don't mind social commentary or people's messages, and that you constantly say that storytellers should tell the story they want to tell, even if some people don't like the direction. However, do you still stand by your argument, even if you disagree with the message? If not, then how do you handle people who label you as biased hypocrites? Here are some examples to clarify. There's a comic called Lone Star, which is about a World War II patriotic superhero who favors capitalism and the American way and fights communists, vampires, and SJW terrorists that seek to destroy America and the values the country holds in modern times. There's a comic called Thin Blue Line, which is about two cops protecting the mayor in a city that's being attacked by anti-police protesters. There's a documentary called The Greatest Lie Ever Sold: The Rise of BLM, hosted by Kenneth Owens. I haven't seen that, but I have heard of it, which tries to expose the lies and corrupted BLM has caused throughout the years. There's a book, True Allegiance, which contains a plot line where black drug dealers hustle his way into a civil rights group and manipulates them to send an 8-year-old to harass a cop, which results in the kid's death after the cop mistakes his squirt gun for an actual gun. And the civil rights group uses this event to demonize the cop and to launch anti-police protests. All the while, he tries to make you feel sympathetic for the cop, and that he's the real victim. So I guess the question is, um, even though it's not necessarily messages that we agree with, do we think that they should still tell the stories that they want to tell, even though we don't necessarily agree with them?
here's the thing. Here's the thing about that is that yes, I think everyone has a right to tell their story. Everyone should be allowed to, say whatever they want, no matter what I agree or disagree with. But here's the thing too about that is that freedom of speech does not mean you are guaranteed the spotlight. You're not guaranteed the budget. You're not guaranteed that someone's going to pick it up. So if I'm going to go super over exaggerated here for a minute. So I'm not trying to say this is a real example. I'm just trying to over exaggerate as an example is all. But if you are like trying to pitch a movie where it's a Nazi trying to fight for, his American dream, you don't get to be surprised or blame woke culture when no studio decides to pick that movie up, pretty much. Things like that. I think, yeah, I haven't. Uh, Funny enough, one of those comics sounded hilarious. I don't want to. I wouldn't want to support the writer, but I would. I wouldn't mind reading like if I could find like a pirated version of it. I wouldn't mind reading it. But I personally wouldn't go out of my way to support or watch this. But that doesn't mean I don't think it shouldn't be out there. I think that everyone deserves to have a voice, and hopefully, in terms of this documentary, of course, I haven't seen this documentary, so I can't say for sure one way or another. But hopefully, if there is misinformation there, if they're trying to just basically tell their own story, and basically trying to, hopefully people who watch this documentary can actually do their own research and know how much of what they're saying in the documentary is misinformation or not. The internet and just movies in general is always going to be full of misinformation. I think that, we ourselves as individuals are accountable for making sure we do our own research. We talk to the right people about this kind of stuff. So that's my overall take on it.
No, I think you hit it right on the head, man. While we may not care for the message or we may not necessarily agree with it, these people have the right to write whatever they want to. But I think in writing that, you also have to understand that, like Stewart says, not every studio is going to pick you up. Not everybody is going to agree with what you have to say. And that's okay, because you're writing this for yourself, and you're writing this clearly towards a message that they want to get across towards a certain group of people. Um, and I don't look at it as cancel culture just because a studio doesn't want to pick it up or somebody doesn't want to highlight it, because maybe at the end of the day, it doesn't fit what their product that they sell, maybe doesn't line up with what it is that these people are trying to sell. And companies have the right to be like, well, no, we don't want to hold that, or we don't want to showcase that. And these writers and these people have the freedom to then go to other publications and to
Mhm.
other studios that feel, hey, maybe they might give us the opportunity. So yeah, while I may not agree with the direction and the messages that they're saying, they absolutely have the right to say what they certainly want to. Unfortunately, even if it is a lie. And this is where what Stewart said is very true. We are all held accountable for the research that we do. If you're sitting down and you're just simply watching Candace Owens and she's talking to you about BLM being a huge lie, and you want to sit down and absolutely believe everything that she says, you can do that. But I would recommend looking up and fact checking what they're certainly saying, so that you have the honest truth instead of just digesting what somebody tells you. So yeah, I would say do your own research, find out the truth. But these people do have the right to certainly say and create what they want to. It just does not mean I have to agree with it, that I
Mhm.
have to watch or accept it. I can turn my blind eye and certainly not watch it, but somebody will.
Mhm.
But it's sad that sometimes that stuff is out in the world that creates division and hatred and things like that. That's something I clearly would not want to see. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have the right to be out there. I just think if anything, um, we should do our own homework,
Yeah.
really, at the end of the day.
And then I also think like last thing I'll say about it is that if you do see something like that and you yourself have done your research and you know like a lot of things that are talked about in the documentary that aren't true, again, other, not just this documentary but like other things out there too, I do think that, yeah, if you do watch it and you're able to like like a lot of this stuff isn't true, I think that could also be helpful because it means like you may see someone who's watching this that may not know as much as you do, and so it kind of gives you that opportunity to, okay, I know exactly what you heard, but this is like the actual thing that they left out. Things like that. It gives you an opportunity to kind of,
Like, balance
tell
it.
balance it, tell the full
Uh-huh.
story, basically.
I
Yeah.
get you. Yeah, use that platform to create something or a message that you want to get across opposite of what they have had to say. I totally agree with you.
Mhm.
The most talented man alive is here. I suck my own balls. What's up, bro? He says, what do you think of the Friday film starring Ice Cube? And if you were to get one more film that takes place in today's society, how do you think it would work? Would you like to see Chris Tucker finally return as Smokey since the first one? Ice Cube said many times in recent years that a script was completed but had a hard time getting the studio to begin filming. With John Witherspoon no longer alive, would you like the new film to honor him and his character as Ice Cube's father to be part of it in some form? You know what, Stuart? Give me another Friday movie.
Mhm.
It's so funny because I literally was just watching Cat Williams just did this like 3-hour long interview with Shannon Sharp, and he was talking about his time, I think, in Next Friday or something like that, along with the other couple of comedians that were certainly in it and whatnot. I recommend you guys check it out. It was pretty enlightening and eye-opening to a certain extent. But I was a big fan of the first Friday movie. I love that movie. I've watched that more times than I can count. I didn't really care for the subsequent sequels that certainly came after, but I know some people were really big fans of the Next Friday. But look, just like every other franchise, Stuart, we're revisiting characters like 20 years after we've left them. I kind of would like to see what Smokey is certainly up to. Bring me back Chris Tucker. I want to see, has he changed his ways? Has homeboy like become sober over the years? Like I really would like to see like where they find themselves now in their life. So yeah, give me, what is that, a Friday 4, Friday 5? I don't know, but give me another Friday movie. I'll take it.
Never saw any of the sequels, but just from the first movie, I could easily see Ice Cube taking up the role of his dad from the previous from the first movie, and then just kind of like a next generation type of thing where it's like now suddenly the kids are making are doing the same kind of stuff that they did when they were their age, but of course they're seeing it through the perspective of an adult. So now even though they did that exact kind of stuff, they're still just like hypocritical about it and like you need to get a job now kind of a thing.
No, I would love to see that. And as long as Smokey's like, you got knocked up out.
Yes.
As long as he does that again, I just need that line again. But other than that, because Craig was always the guy that Ice Cube portrayed. Craig, he was always the hero in his movies, and so I would like to see if he's got one more hero act in him, or like you said, if they involve the kids, maybe his son steps up for him this time. I think they've got some. I think there's potential for a really good story there if they want to tackle it, but we'll see if it ever comes to fruition.
Yeah.
Johnny Marrero, do you think Once and Always Part 2 could happen? And if it does, do you think Amelia Ali could join Billy, Zach, and Min on the quest to find Zordon? I don't think so. I think we're past that, but what do you think, Stewart? Any chance?
I don't see them calling it Once and Always Part 2, but I do think like a potential sequel could happen, especially with how good the first one not only with how good it was, but also how well it performed, I think, on Netflix, because it was trending on Twitter for quite a bit. So we'll have to wait and see. I do, more than anything, even if we can't get Billy and Zach back, I do really just want to see more with Charlie's character, with Min, playing Charlie. Or wait, sorry, no, was it the actress's name Charlie playing?
Her name is Charlie playing Min. Yeah, you said it right.
Charlie. Okay, it was. Okay, cool. I would just love to see more from her because I think she had a lot of potential.
And that's not to say that I don't want it to happen, because I do. I mean, shit, I've been pushing for Charlie Kirsch to be the next Karate Kid. Like, I want to see more of her. I think she's got potential to be something really special as she gets older. And the fact that, like you mentioned, it was trending Once and Always, I think was in like the top 10 for a little bit over on Netflix, definitely trending over on Twitter as well. So I do think with the way that it was received, I think there's a potential, whether or not Hasbro, I guess the big question for me would be how Hasbro tackles the idea of, look, for years we've been pushing the idea of a reboot and really disconnecting from the past 30 years of Power Rangers. So how will we balance that, but yet still do another sequel after we've said we're kind of done and past this? So who knows? Maybe if the Jonathan Entwistle stuff, maybe if it doesn't hit or doesn't go so well, maybe that's something that they decide to tackle, or maybe they feel the audience is smart enough to understand that these are two completely separate properties and entities. So look, I would like to see one. I just don't know if Hasbro has it as the top of their agenda right now. That's really where I'm coming from. Could we see more live action kids content for Power Rangers after and during the reboot? Yes, I do believe so. I think that was one of their main selling points to us, was adult content, kids programming, animated series. Now, whether or not all of that is staying true, who knows? But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Jenny Klein, one of the executive producers, is working on another Power Ranger project outside of what they're currently developing as the reboot. So that might be the kids' content coming our way, but time will tell once we get further announcements down the line. What young female actress would you want to see as a female Red Ranger for the PR? For me, it's between Anaka Foreignert, Kyle Cantrell, or Dora Dolphin. Also, you rock, man. Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate that, bro. Any female actress you have in mind?
I just Googled all three of them and realized I don't know who any of these three are. So
it might be like from Disney or Nick shows, perhaps. Maybe.
Yeah, I think two of them were from Disney, and then one of them was from I recognize the show, The Loud House, but I've just never watched it, so not familiar with it. Oh man, that's a really good question, though.
I'm still sticking by my fan casting choice, which was the girl that played Sabrina in the Chilling Tales or the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch or something like that. Oh, that was on Netflix. Kiernan Shipka, I think her name was. Yeah, Kiernan Shipka. I wouldn't mind her being a Red Ranger.
Ooh, I know. Crap. I need to look up her name real quick. But the one woman from The Bear.
Cocaine Bear or no?
No. The Bear, the TV series.
Okay. I haven't seen it, but I'm familiar with it. The guy from Shameless is in it, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's freaking amazing as it. Okay,
Abby
Ao.
Elliott. Oh,
Huh?
Ao Edebiri.
Ao, yeah, Ao Edeberry. I think she would. I think she's got some potential. Like I watched the movie Bottoms, which she was also in, and she and her co-actor, I can't remember her name, but the two of them definitely did some good fight choreography in that movie. So I think she would probably fit in really well with the Power Rangers franchise.
Love the pick. Love the choice. And then last but not least, Melissa Benoist loves bacon. What's up, AJ? Good to see you, man. He says, this past week and a half, I revisited the entirety of Power Rangers Beast Morphers, and wow, it was absolutely stellar. Love that a lot of the characters were focused on and that the lesson of the day filler episodes were still connected to the main story or even the next important story arc like Ravi and Roxy or Devin and Mayor Daniels. I have also revisited Grid Connection, and my thoughts about it have completely changed. It's so much better now thanks to the existence of Once and Always and Cosmic Fury that I already watched it 3 times this past week. Grid Connection for me is now one of my favorite team ups in the franchise. The only thing I still do not like about Beast Morphers was the use of Ben and Betty. They were very distracting to me, always interrupting the momentum of a serious scene, though they did have some good moments that were genuine and funny. To conclude, I had a blast rewatching Beast Morphers, and it is one of my favorite seasons of Power Rangers. I give both Grid Connection and Beast Morphers an A minus or a 9.5 out of 10. That's probably more of an A, but highly recommend, or at least around here how we grade, that would probably come in at about an A. But I'm glad that you liked it, AJ, for sure, man. There's always something cool about seeing new content and it giving you a level of appreciation of like sort of what kind of came before. I think maybe it's a little bit of that nostalgia factor too that plays a part, right? Of seeing a returning Billy and seeing some of the Zach and Once and Always, and then you going back and rewatching Great Connection and really seeing how maybe Jason plays into all of it. Like, I think there's always going to be a complaint that we probably want to see more of Jason for sure. I personally was always okay with the amount of Jason that we got. I still found it rather impactful, but I would have liked to have seen it connect a little bit more to the story. But again, I haven't rewatched it since I've seen Cosmic Fury and Once and Always, so maybe it would certainly hit me a little bit differently also. But I've always boasted about Beast Morphers. I've always thought it was a really good season. I would agree with you. Ben and Betty had their really genuine funny moments and good timing, but there were certainly moments in that season where it just really takes you away from the pacing and the seriousness of a particular moment. But I'm glad it definitely has grown on you, man. I'm glad that you were a big fan of it. Ravi was a standout to me. Roxy was a standout to me. Zoe was a huge standout to me also. I thought they had some really, really strong characters for sure. And look, it gave me one of my favorite Power Ranger moments in literally a decade, and that's the musical episode, Stewart. Like, that's like, what was it? It's something that it's good to be human. It's fun to be human, or
Yeah,
something
it's
like that.
great
It's great to be human.
human.
I mean, great shit, man. I'm so glad that they got creative with it and gave us something different. It might be a turnoff for some people, but I was a sucker for it, man. What do you think about what he had to say, though?
Yeah, no, I thought Beast Morphers is an interesting one because whereas like the previous 3 seasons have all had that, well, actually I should say Dino Charge had this pattern. The other 2 were just like it went from a bad first season to a worse second season. Dino Charge was a good first season and a bad second season. Beast Morphers, I feel like the first season did a lot of good things right. It got a lot of things right, but then it also kind of had a few misses here and there. And then the exact same thing with the second season, but it was also the opposite. Like everything they fixed from season 1, it seems like they took a lot of things that worked really well in season 1, and then they didn't do so well with season 2, I think. So it's funny. I think together they're definitely it's definitely a really good show. But I think when you look at the seasons individually, they definitely have their issues here and there. But overall, yeah, I think Beast Morphers is a very, very solid season. And it was the first time I think where I was actually really excited to see what new Power Ranger seasons were going to be coming, because because it was a great breath of fresh air after Ninja Steel. And speaking of breath of fresh air, say what you want about Ben and Betty. Yes, they definitely had their moments that took away from the show, but thank God they did not rely on flatulence humor like they did with Monty and Victor.
Yeah, at least they weren't Vic and Monty, right?
Yeah.
I will say, I would agree with you that it was definitely a step above for sure. But yeah, man, I appreciate your thoughts on Beast Morphers, AJ. So thank you very much for gracing us with that. I'm just gonna reload this page just to make sure we got all the comments we did. So I think that will do it for our live viewer questions. Some last comments here from Marcelino. Marcelino says, I kind of think Kara and Lena being in a relationship makes more sense than Kara and William. Yeah, the William stuff just felt way too forced to me. But you're right, Stewart. I think they established further along that Kara was definitely into men. Whether or not she was bi, who certainly knows? She is an alien, so we have no idea. Marceline also says they could have pulled a Willow where she's not into girls per se, but she just only loved Kara for who she is as a person. Possible. Marceline says it's great to be human was cringe to me. And I just say that I was like, I'm sure it's cringe to some people. So I totally get it. But overall, he liked Beast Morphers. So I would agree. But any final words, Stewart, before we wrap up, man?
Just that Beast Morphers was great, but I think I like Dino Fury just a little bit more.
Oh, Dino Fury? Yeah. Dino Fury was definitely a leap above for sure. Getting an opportunity to really see what they were capable of doing away from, just a new cast and a new showrunner and things like that. So a couple heads up for you guys, channel updates. We are going to be reviewing Echo for you guys here. I believe that's going to be indie. It's a 5-episode series. It drops all at once. So I believe at least by next Friday, I've talked with Indy about just doing a season review for the show. So he's just going to talk about the season as a whole. So you can expect a Echo series review for you guys. We have a couple of other things that are going to be happening. I think Stewart's going to be tackling Avatar, The Last Airbender for the channel come February. I believe it drops next month, if I'm not mistaken. Also, we got a couple other content certainly headed your guys' way to really look forward to as well. Might be trying to do something for the Oscars come March, and then maybe some more movie reviews here for you guys. I am planning on trying to finish and revisit the Doctor Who specials. I think I got 3 more to go. I do want to tackle those, and I probably will be dropping a Rebel Moon review for you guys this week also. I have not finished the movie. I've been watching it sort of like in pieces, but I may just go back and rewatch it. I probably went through like the first 2 acts, and I probably got like the last act ready to go. So hopefully I'll be bringing a Rebel Moon review for you guys as well, and hopefully more continued content for you guys on a weekly basis. So any support definitely would help the channel out around here. But thank you each and every one of you for continuing to join us. Stewart, if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at TurboStew01.
And if you want to follow us on social media, clearly everywhere, as you can see, at APlus Opinions on social media. We do have audio podcasts for this show. So wherever you listen for your audio podcast, search for APlus Hero Report. We currently are on Spotify, that provides video to Apple Podcasts. And again, wherever you certainly check out your videos. We are currently over on TikTok as well. If you want to see some of the clips that we drop there from our shows, movie trailers, new images. TikTok is a great place for you guys. And if you like that forum community, if you want to feel part of the team and part of the fan base for APlus Hero Report, check out our Discord forum community. There is a link in the description box below. And if anything this year, Stewart, we're probably going to start rolling out some merchandise for you guys. We got brand new logos and stuff. So I do want to design some brand new merchandise and maybe some membership programs for you guys, and figure out maybe some sort of exclusives that we can provide for you here. I want to start doing more convention coverage for this channel, allowing us to drop highlights for panels on our channel, but maybe full panels for our memberships, along with maybe some behind the scenes stuff and additional clips for you guys. So all of that stuff will certainly be talked more about, but 2024 is looking like a big year for Hero Report, and we certainly need your help with the growth. So like these videos, share these videos, cut out clips and share them if you want to. We definitely would appreciate it. But other than that, guys, you got something, Stuart?
Oh yeah, and then just you know, because you mentioned conventions, if you guys ever see me at a convention and you want to challenge me to a Yu-Gi-Oh duel, I will, like, 90, unless I'm running to a panel, I will probably accept. Just letting you guys know.
I love it, man. I love it. So Stuart's down for a battle, y'all. So if you see him at a nearby convention, you know, it's on, bro. It's on. But all right, y'all, that's gonna do it for us here. We definitely will be back next Sunday for you guys, so certainly stay tuned. But until then, do us a big favor, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.